Present. Mr. Kelly,
Here.
Mr. Pope,
Here.
Mr. Matt,
Yes.
Ms. Palestrini.
In the hallway.
That might be her.
Is she here?
Yes.
Okay.
But just say present.
Present. And Mr. Russell.
Here. All right, awesome. We have a quorum. Please stand if you're able for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, Ms. Lyons.
Hello.
Has anyone signed up to speak today?
No one did sign up today.
All right. Before you have the meeting minutes.
Wait a minute. Huh?
Oh, I didn't know. Okay.
Is this for the public hearing or is?
Public hearing, yeah.
Okay, nope. Which public hearing?
About the 10% increase in the abatement,
Okay,
which is.
that one is this one, corporate.
Okay. Like, can you just ask the question?
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Okay.
Nothing for public comment.
So before you have the meeting minutes from our last meeting, which was November 16th, 2023. Please review them at this time. Changes to the minutes, or I will entertain a motion to approve them as presented.
So moved. Second.
Questions, comments, concerns? Not here. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Opposed? All right. Good evening, Mr. Hedges.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I could just take a minute, I'd like to acknowledge a gentleman who's with us tonight, Mr. Ray, who's been with us now for nearly 4 years. He joined us in January of 2020, just a few weeks before COVID hit us all. And Josh has been a big part of our town ever since then. We put a lot of things together. He created things in this town that will be with us forever. And he's been a big part of all the development that's been going on. So I just want to thank Josh, and Josh, would you like to say anything to the board?
Yeah, just want to say I really appreciate it. I think this is maybe the best first job that a person could have had in this profession. So I really appreciate everything.
Thank you for all that you.
And if you can all join us tomorrow afternoon for the Christmas party, you can have a drink with him. And I'd also like to take a moment and introduce Mo Khan, who's joining us today for his first day. Stand up for a minute, Joe. Mo. Mo comes to us from Mount Prospect. You have his resume in front of you. He and I both served in Mount Prospect and Hoffman Estates a few years apart. And he also served in Wooddale and Itasca, where he lives now. And I'm going to let him say a couple of things, and including sharing his favorite thing to do every Sunday, which is my favorite thing.
So my favorite thing to do on Sundays, I do a family and friends dinner for about 20 people. I cook, we get together every Sunday, watch some football, have some drinks, and I get to cook for my family and friends. So that's my favorite thing to do. So yeah, I'm excited to come to Hampshire. I actually have a friend that I've known for about 15 years that lives in Hampshire, along with her parents, so I know this town a little bit. And I'm excited to bring my development background and help this town grow in a working manner. Just excited for the opportunity. So I want to thank Mr. Hedges and the board for that opportunity.
Thanks, Mo.
Thank you.
Mo served as a code enforcement officer in his first position, so he's done it all. He's a building official. So he has all the training and experience that Josh and I learned together over the last 4 years. But now we have a real pro to come and finish that for us. Since we're at that pace now, we have to hit the ground running, not just start from scratch. So thank you for that. With that, Mr. Mayor, we would ask for your consideration of a motion to authorize the village manager to negotiate a professional services agreement with Lamp Incorporated for design and construction management services for a new public works facility. This PSC would be approved by the board once negotiated. You have before you an agenda supplement. I'm going to have Josh go through that because he did a lot of work on this. I also want to thank Jimmy for his work on Mr. Vaselli through this process. And this was a rather long, drawn-out process. We started interviewing companies back as early as July. And then we got pretty serious about it, more intense interviews. We received 8. I'm gonna let Josh go through that. So Josh, if you'll go through the memorandum, please.
And so this is a project that's been a high priority for the board for a long time. Several different renditions of the plan has been considered. And during the last budget cycle, the village board did approve spending a new revenue source for this project, kind of signaling that it is the high priority and staff should move forward with it. Although that funding mechanism hasn't itself been approved yet, it was just in the budget. So that's going to be an important point kind of towards the end of this. So as Jay said, staff held initial meetings with several contractors and architects just to learn about the process, learn about the different ways to go about it. There is a new statute that takes effect January 1st that is specific to design build. Our attorney and several others advised us that it may not be a good thing to try to do a big project like this under a brand new statute that hasn't been done before. So upon recommendation from a lot of the professionals in the industry, we did move forward with a more traditional RFQ process. In that process, one of the factors you are not allowed to consider is cost or fees. So as you can see in the agenda supplement, in the 8 responses, or evaluating the 8 responses that were received in the RFQ that's in your packet, the following criteria were used to evaluate them, and that's past project record and experience, qualifications of the firm, their personnel, description of their project approach, the workload of the key personnel, their anticipated timeline for the project, and the location of those personnel. Those are from the statute, so those are things we do have to consider. And then the statute allows for additional considerations. So after the first round of scoring that the staff committee held, which was made up of Mr. Hedges, Ms. Lyons, Street Supervisor Dave Starrett, his foreman, Bill, oh my gosh, Pansloff. Just blanked. All I could think of was Mr. Rossetti over there. And Chief Pan. They all scored the firms, and there was 3 firms at the top ranking that were invited to come in and present their RFQ, present their project ideas, present their timeline. And that final ranking resulted in Lamp Incorporated being the #1 ranked firm. So if the board, approves the village manager to negotiate a contract, fees, costs, all of that would be negotiated in that contract. And the statute says then if an amenable contract can't be worked out, we would go to the #2 firm. But it is, our full intention that a contract will be met amenably with Lamp Incorporated. So there tonight, we do have their 3D presentation that we can show. If you want me to do that now or wait till you guys?
Do that first. You can do that as the introduction. This was presented to us after on a presentation.
Sure.
Those of you amongst the wall, please feel free to move
Yep.
about the cabin so you can see the screen.
Did it a few times.
So this concept is that the current village-owned property on Town Place Road.
So that dirt up there would be the brown dirt pile.
Yes, is that dirt pile.
Going away from this thing right now.
See how choppy it is.
There's no sound. So just, I thought it was a couple good rocks on it today.
Go through the electric cars, Virginia.
Part of the presentation, part of the scoring was how technology and how they use technology in the building process and the presentation. So this was the only video we saw. It was very impressive. You can see that there's potential for expansion in the future as we grow. All right. So with that, Ian, if you'd like to say a couple words, and I'll see maybe introduce Chris.
Thank you. Good evening. It's a long day without that here. Good evening, Mr. President, trustees, thank you very much for, actually I should say staff, thank you very much for making the recommendation. We look forward to working with you on this very exciting project as we're moving forward. And the Lamps have had a lot of long history here. My grandfather, Cliff Lamp, spent a lot of summers out here. In fact, was responsible for First Ace Harbor Store. The high school was the high school down the street way back in the day. and ourselves have been working with District 300 to expand and renovate all the facilities, especially that middle school, of the old middle school, I should say. But we are looking forward to working with you in this exciting project. With me tonight is Chris Hansen. He's with Cooler Architects. He'll be the design partner. I can only claim the responsibility for making what he designs come to fruition. But it's his and his team's prowess that we're able to create that with the SketchUp of the 3D flyby and stuff like that too. So we're looking forward to working with staff to figure out exactly what they need now, what will look in the future. Because it seems to me I was talking to somebody in the know that says based upon their growth, they could be up to 25,000 people here real quick. So I don't know if that's true or not, but a lot different when I lived here about 30 years ago.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And everyone, thanks for having us. Kluber Architects and Engineers is a full-service firm. Ironically, I stood here in front of the board in 2006 presenting our design concept for a public works facility. So I still followed your needs all these years later, and I'm happy that we have the opportunity to continue our working relationship with you. And we've done a number of very successful public works facilities in the area. Paintree Grove, Village of South Elgin. We currently have our City of Aurora's under construction, and we're working with Yorkville as well. So extensive experience. We look forward to working with all of you. We want to start the ball rolling hopefully next week.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll just leave you with the thought that, as Josh mentioned, we do not have a funding source for this yet, as well as for the utility master plan. So I believe Lori sent an email to Trustee Chairman Kelly, the Budget Committee. We're hoping to get together sometime late December and talk a little bit about the budget process, as well as how we can put before the board the revenue stream required for both master plan and the village public works garage. I believe just from the board's conversations until now, we believe the public works garage is the number one priority of all those, and we would agree for staff level. But we need to work out the funding sources over the next couple of months. That probably means that now they've given us a timetable that we get us in the building by December 1st. That means a contract being signed this month and really getting started on things. And we can do some preliminary work. A lot of the projects that we saw from all these companies were projects that have been planned, just like ours, our public works building, as well as that village hall plan that some of you have seen, that never get built. And what we don't want to do is what the board did many years ago was spend almost $500,000 on the architectural plans for that public works, for the village hall that never got built. So we want to be cautious with the village's money, but we're also doing this by the proper process. This time we haven't asked you to waive any bidding or anything like that. And construction costs are just out of this world now. We're being told is when we started this discussion just 6 months ago, we were talking $200 a square foot. Now we're close to $300 a square foot, just because of the market out there. So we'll bring a lot of things before the budget committee, probably the public works committee as well over the next few weeks and months. And then we'll hope that we can figure out priorities and get this funded. So with that, we'd ask your consideration.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Hedges, Mr. Ray, Mr. Lambert, Mr. Hansen, as long as we're talking about this?
I do have one. So I saw the RFQ that was published, that I think you said 3 respondents replied to. In any of their,
We had eight.
sorry, 8 respondents replied. Thank you. In any of those respondents, did they provide estimated costs for the design and construction management services? Like, do we have a ballpark of what we
Only
think
that
something
we
like
could,
that would cost?
through the process, we've kind of gotten to the point where we believe the need for growth would put us at about 25,000 square feet. We started out at 18,000, now we're up to potentially 25,000. That'll all come as part of the first phase of the needs assessment. I'm sorry.
They were applying to an RFQ to become the design and construction management companies. Did they provide estimated costs?
Right. So what we did,
replies?
basically what they did was tell us what per square foot costs. They were not, it was not part of the requirement. And we are not allowed to consider costs. That's why they couldn't. They did give us estimates of square foot cost and that sort of thing.
So with this, sorry, my last question, and I'll shut up for your board. With this, if we pass this to authorize the negotiation, or for you to negotiate, we can go through a design and construction management process, get the design. That's when we'll figure out what the cost of that building is. We are not locked in to then build that building, correct?
We wouldn't be. Now, the way they presented it is that we can get through the preliminary design phase, which would be groundwork, grading, that sort of thing, and get some of the work done before we even finish the design of the second phase. That's how the design, the sort of hybrid design build process allows you to do that, rather than doing everything in a line. And that was one of the criteria, was how soon the building can be built. But it'll be up to us. And the answer is probably not. If we don't have a funding source by January 1st, then their schedule will be delayed.
Well, I guess I think the thing that needs to be discussed isn't just the funding source for this, but now we've also had a public works meeting where there's significant funding needed.
Right.
Which one do we prioritize over the other? Do we try to do both? I mean, there's some pretty.
If the trucks fall apart, it
Discussions.
doesn't matter how bad the infrastructure is,
And if you don't
they
have
can't
water-
drive to them.
You don't have water, people can't drink, so. I
We
think
haven't-
there's definitely discussions we need to have.
We talked about that briefly on, this was just 2 Saturdays ago we were here. We talked briefly about the public works project and how it fits in, but it definitely is competing for the same funds, including the potential funding source that was talked about, sales tax source, and that sort of thing could be used for this purpose too.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion to authorize the village manager to negotiate a professional services agreement with LAMP Incorporated for design and construction management services for a new public works facility.
So
Questions, comments, concerns? Ms. Clerk, can you call, well, it's a contract, can you call roll, please?
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mr. Coe.
Aye.
Mr. Matt.
Aye.
Mr. Palastrellini.
I think that was right.
Okay. Mr. Robinson
Aye.
and Ms. Fodor. Aye. Yes.
Okay, thank you, thank you. You're welcome to
Thank
stay,
you.
but you don't have to.
Thank you.
With that, Mr. Mayor, we would ask your consideration of a resolution approving front yard public utility easements for Prairie Ridge and Oakstead. You have an agenda supplement that I prepared for you. This topic was discussed at length just 2 weeks ago, so I don't think I need to go through a lot of it. Mr. Olson is here tonight with his landscape architect, and we'll be talking about some things that are in your packet. And you do have, at the bottom of my agenda supplement, you do have voting guidance here, if you would, just, I don't want this to be confusing. So an affirmative vote would allow public utilities and the utility easements, and no vote would require public utilities to remain in the rear yard of public utilities. Yeah.
Sure. So thank you for having me again. When I was last before you, I asked for feedback on our proposal to allow public utilities within the front yards, and you provided. Thank you for that. Really, it really helps us understand what the concerns are. I wrote down what I thought the concerns are. I apologize if I missed anything. My wife says, tells me I only hear what I want to hear. What I did hear, the 2 main priorities were safety and aesthetics, right? And so I thought I would address or respond to the concerns regarding safety. And then with me tonight is Carl Peterson with Perry Weber Associates. They are not only our land planner. You saw his company's work when we got replatted this community not that long ago, but also they do our landscape design. So that's why Carl's here with us tonight. So on the safety side, we heard concerns that transformers can explode, and they can, right? Usually in severe weather events when you get a lot of electricity surging or there's some other issue, but it is very rare, right? And it's important to note that, and when I looked up what I could find online, it's roughly 3% over the 40-year life of a transformer, roughly 3%. Is what they estimated, that event does occur mostly. It does occur. They're usually placed before that occurs. But it does happen. And there was concern whether or not, is it safer in the front yard or is it safer in the backyard? We talked a lot about the issues in the backyard And I asked, this isn't in your packet, but I asked Josh to, put this photo up on the screen because I've seen this firsthand, right, in our communities. And what happens in the backyard because of the topography, backyards are designed to move stormwater, right, along the property line. So that's where the pedestals and transformers are. And what happens, you get a lot of leaves and debris, especially in the fall, filling up an inlet, clogging an inlet, and then the water backs out. And this is what happens. And I witnessed this in our communities numerous times. It's pretty scary, right? And that's, that could cause an explosion of the transformer. ComEd likes it in the front yard, first and foremost, because of access. We talked about that last time, right? They can get to it if it does it. If there is an issue with the transformer, they can get to it right away and get it back up and going versus going through a fence or, fighting a dog to try to get it going up. But also because the front yards are designed so that the streets are designed to handle overland flood routes, which in the event that storm sewer, it's a 100-year event or whatever it is, the storm system is full, so it has to go somewhere. So it's designed to run in the street, but it's designed to stay in the street and not on the property. So this, could it happen? Maybe in a huge event, but it's very unlikely you'll see something like this in the front yard. So it's our belief because of the access, because of that issue, that while there could be an event in the front yard, we think if it does happen, it's a safer location in the front than it is in the back. I'm not sure if that addressed the concerns, but that's kind of our belief. And I do know that's a big part of the reason ComEd is now mandating, that they go in the front yard unless as far as the aesthetics go, I'm gonna let Carl talk about that a little bit. Carl wasn't here last time, but what we heard was we presented some elevations, right? You change that, Josh? Oh, there it is. He's saying elevations, right? That was in our subdivision in Highland Woods, where the contractor, the builder did shield them. And what I heard was that, it wasn't enough. We like using landscaping for shielding these pedestals. And so we went to Barry Weber and asked, what can you do to enhance that even further? And this is digitally altered, right? Same photos, but digitally altered, and you can see the plan above. And so this is the same elevations, but with enhanced landscaping, which I'll let Carl speak to now.
Hello. There. Good evening. Thanks for coming tonight.
Thanks for having me. The the issues that Dan brought up about front or back are real. And as land planners and landscape architects, we've dealt with this in many other communities. The first was a community known as Winding Creek in Batavia, where the Public Works Department actually was mandating that these go in the front because it was just, they wanted all the utilities in the front because it was just easier for them to take care of what they needed to take care of.
Excuse me, Batavia provides their own power, right, as a municipal government?
Yes.
Correct,
Yep.
that's why they'd be making the recommendation?
Yep. Yep.
Thank you.
And that was the first time that we've ever seen it, and so we did a treatment similar to what you saw last time, with just, putting some tall grasses around it, or, very simple landscaping to mask it. And over time, we've seen, the latest time this issue came up was in LaGrange, Illinois, where the houses were already built, the people were moved in, and the city just didn't like the way that the streetscape looked with these pedestals there. And so we actually came in and so we worked with the homeowners and showed them what we were going to do, and did a simple treatment with, grasses and wildflowers, daylilies, things that persist, through the winter, give some winter interest. And very similar to what you saw was it last week?
Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
And so, so then Dan called us and said, look, what more can we do here? And the thought, the approach that we took in this case is, now we have like we have 3 levels of screening. And one of the problems with what we have been doing in the past is that all of a sudden you have a lawn and you have this tall stuff and it's attracting your eye to it. And so to make that area a little bit bigger, we're using partial fencing. It's not fencing that goes all the way around. It's like a corner fence. We have the white fence option, the corner split rail option, or a wood fence that's similar in cut to the white fence that actually provides a screening. And having that in the front, now your eyes kind of drawn to the fence rather than the pedestal in the middle. And then the grasses and wildflowers and evergreen shrubs. We're thinking some low growing evergreen shrubs to have that winter interest. And in the early spring, you cut the tall grass and things like that, but it grows right up very quick. And during that brief transitionary period, the fence is carrying that aesthetic weight. And the more we looked at this, we really felt that it's, it augments the landscaping to the house, and it actually gives more of a streetscape feel when you're driving down the street. When new houses go in and the parkway trees go in, the parkway trees are 2.5 inches to 3 inches, and it takes a few years before those trees really start doing the job aesthetically that you'd like them to do. And we think that this could help give a quicker, more positive impact on the streetscape aesthetic over taking the dollars to put the pedestal in the back and spending that money for underground conduit, can bring it to the front and have something that not only benefits the homeowner and the people that live there, but anybody else that is using the public right of way. And we're open to any questions.
Again, just a couple more comments. A couple things I forgot to mention. So just so we understand what we're talking about here in the front yard, it's a transformer, the short green thing that you've seen in the pictures. There's one transformer for every 8 houses. So that's a lot. You see that with that transformer allocation, there's going to be each pedestal serves 2 homes in the front yard. Right? So there'll be a pedestal every other house in the front yard for ComEd, and then another pedestal for 18 cases. 2 pedestals every other house, and then every 8 house there's also a transformer. So I just wanted to we understand what we're trying to shield here, right? Some communities have more than just one communication provider, so they'll have more pedestals, but it's 18 to be on here, so it's 2 pedestals. I want to make that clear, but I also want to make clear, and I was going to be very candid and honest about why are we asking for this, and it's, like, again, as I mentioned last time, it's cost, right? It's $3,500 what we're estimating to put these conduits in the backyard. And that cost has to get passed on to, the builder who then passes it on to the homeowner, trying to keep these homes affordable, as we've been here many times speaking. It's a lot of money, and it's a big deal for us, but it's a even bigger deal for our builders. One of our builders was here last time. He expressed that thought. I think it was in your packet last time. Where another one of our builders also has the same concern. So it's a very big concern, and it's gotten to the point where, and this is, I'm going to be very good, this is our problem, not the board's problem. This is our problem, but we're concerned about the closings with these builders because of this issue. It's one, anything can cause a delay in closing or cancellation of closing. This issue has come up with that. They're both in due diligence right now, and that's about set to expire soon, but we're concerned about that. So it's a real concern of ours, but again, we'll deal with whatever it is, whatever the board decides. Certainly respect whatever the board decides, but that's where we are. So I just wanted to be honest with you on that. So with that, we'll certainly open to any questions.
Just on that same topic, though, it would cost an extra $3,500 if you had to put it in the back. How much does it cost to do one of these?
We're estimating that to be around $1,500.
So $1,500, so it's half the price that it would.
So we do we require, as I mentioned last time, through our design review process with our builders, we require that, they get approval of the facade of the homes
Mhm.
for each lot, and also the landscaping package. So we require that they put landscaping in the front yard anyway, right? So that is a cost they have to do anyway. We're focusing it more on this, dollars.
And then it's divided, so it's half, because you're sharing it for two houses, so that
Correct.
1,500 is 750 additional that it's gonna cost for that. Okay,
So by giving you a break, you guys are gonna spend 1,500 on each one of these. And is that gonna be passed on to the homeowner?
It'll be paid for by the builder, right? It'd be as part of their landscape package that they provide to the homeowner. But as I just mentioned, they're required to do the landscaping anyway. So the cost where they would have maybe spent this other parts of that front yard, most of that money goes in the front yard because the homeowners tend to do their own backyard stuff, give them the flexibility. But we're concerned about the streetscape and the facade in the front. So if it wasn't spent here, they're gonna spend it elsewhere within that yard, in that front yard.
So am I
If that makes
hearing you
sense.
correctly that they would then shift plantings away from the house to shield?
They'll
this?
still do plantings around the foundation, but for example, we require, and I haven't been on the design review committee in a while, so I apologize, maybe we don't require it anymore, but we traditionally require one deciduous tree in our yard and one flowering tree, for example, right? And we give the builders flexibility, if not that, give us more bushes over here, give us something. So maybe they don't get that flowering tree and they do this instead. So I guess that's what I'm shifting dollars a bit, or shifting landscaping dollars, I should say, if that makes sense.
So when you run the line from the transformer to the head, you're gonna have to go under a driveway,
Yes,
assuming. How is that gonna work as far as,
they don't require condos under driveways. They're required under streets, but not under driveways.
what about keeping it, I don't know the word I'm looking for here, so the driveway basically isn't collapsing in on where it was dug out?
Settling?
Yeah,
Settling.
settling. Yeah, so the depths of these trenches are typically 3 feet, right? And they're very narrow. You've seen the trenches, right? That's the issue when you get settlement like that is usually with sanitary sewer and water, because they're deeper, they're wider and whatnot. But this has not been an issue in our other communities in Highland Woods where it's in the front yard, where they're asking them to settlement. That's been in place for quite some time. I haven't heard it being an issue elsewhere, maybe, Carl. But because of the width of, you're not using trench backfill in each one of those.
Okay.
It's typically necessary.
again,
Yeah.
more. My concern last week, or last meeting had been the landscaping, the facade that you're gonna put around it looks, it's crappy, sorry. Later, when people don't take care of it.
Mhm.
And so these are wonderful. I like all three of them. My concern is 4 years later, 5 years later, if they've been in a house and the homeowner that doesn't take care of it, the fence that gets peeled, so it's no longer white, it's peeling, and then the person that doesn't take care of the bushes and they're dead.
Sure.
How can we deal with that? Can we put something in the homeowners association type?
It's already in there.
It's in there?
Yeah, that's the role of the homeowner association, right? To make sure that the homeowners upkeep their properties, particularly in the front yards.
Okay,
And, the enforcement is fine, right?
Okay.
And we only done this once, but, that's something you can leave the property, right? That's allowed in the CCR, in the decks and bylaws. So, there is that, usually you can convince them to get it done, right? And easier than others, but the HOA is the enforcement mechanism there. And that would go with anything, whether it was this or any other landscaping, if they're not mowing their lawn,
Yeah.
right? HOA would go after them, as I would imagine the village.
Yeah, those are also code, both of those things would be code violations, but the HOA usually gets it before we do it in the village subdivision.
The dead plant thing comes up quite a bit with, with the HOA, it's like a tree dies or plant dies, and the HOA sends out the nasty, the property manager sends out the nasty letters, like, we need to either pull it or replace it.
okay. Because I don't live in the subdivision that does that, so I don't know how well they keep that up. But if you don't water the bushes, they're going to die. And I understand from the the specific bushes that you're picking would keep leaves during the winter and keep it full.
Yes, and like if you look at, like Carl Forester grass or some of the taller ornamental grasses, they stay up during the winter and provide that winter air interest. You know, it's a
Okay.
straw color. In fact, that's how the grasses in this picture happen to be this month ago, early fall picture. So even when there's snow and stuff, it's sticking out and providing that screening. And, you know, as a judicious landscape architect, we pick plants that are very hardy because and, you know, we have droughts, we have floods, we have everything here in Illinois. And so we're not gonna put anything that requires a lot of care. Basically, the homeowner would have to weed the mulch bed. And, you know, one of the other reasons besides having the 3 levels of screening, that to have the plants in the plant bed on the outside of the fence, easier to mow along the plant bed than around the fence. And so the fence wouldn't have any grass near it to grow up around it and make that look junky. It really, we're looking at, we're always, whether it's the homeowner taking care of it or the HOA is doing a kind of a maintenance free for the homeowner, but we're always striving to have it to be easy to maintain and look good no matter what, because a lot of times it won't, you know, and some of the designers in my office actually complain because they're like, well, you don't really let us use a lot of different plants. Let the homeowners put new plants in if they want, but we can't trust them to make this work. So.
Yeah. I appreciate that. I mean, I think this looks good. I mean, that was my big concern is the aesthetics in the community. I understand the financial end. I understand the safety issue. But if we've got a homeowners association that's gonna make sure that they do it and the village will do its own enforcement, then I could agree and support for your. Thank you.
For the board's information, I don't remember I said, seen this in our town, and I went past it and found it. It is SSA number 7. Like that. It's off of Getzelman Road, and it's like Pheasant Trail, Oak Hill Road. If you drive back in there, I mean, can you notice it? Yeah. Does it jump out at you? No. And most of them don't have fancy landscape. Most of them just have the pedestal or the transformer just sitting there. I mean, yes, there are bigger yards there, but you almost have to look for it to see it. I mean, so it's there, and yes, you can landscape it and stuff, but we do have it here. And that was on account of a lot of those back, they couldn't put it in the backyard because there's a farm field back there and the utility, for whatever reason, had to go in the front yard there, so we have it. So if you want to take a ride back there and look, I mean, you'll see it. It's not, it doesn't look as bad as you would think it would look. Because when I first saw it, I'm like, no. But then I remember I saw this and it's not as bad as you would think. So, in my opinion.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions. With the move to the front, what utilities would exist in the backyard in that easement?
So gas has always been in the front in the right of way, right? So this would be communication and electric would be in the front, so all that would be in the backyard then is storm sewer.
We have storm sewer in the front too.
You do, it's everywhere, right? It's in the street, mostly in street curbs.
But that's what the 10-foot easement in the front yard was originally for, was water and sewer, correct?
Sanitary sewer and water. Typically, and all of our plans will always try to keep that in the right way as well. That's the typical standard design, most desired in most villages. But sometimes when you're going around a corner with the sanitary line, you can't bend the sanitary line. Mainly water means you can bend it a little bit easier. But sometimes you get out of that right away. So that's what that is in those instances where you go around a bend that sanitary line approaches a little bit in the front yard, so you make sure you get that easement. I would say most of the time, you know, sanitary and water mains are not within that front yard easement, but if we put it on every one of our plats, just in case it does.
Okay, so then the 10-foot in the front, I'm looking at exhibit 8, the depiction.
Yep.
The 10-foot village utility easement in the front. That was already existing, we're just placing this there
That was already existing.
at 10 feet.
Yeah, and the recorded plat, it did already exist at 10 feet as a village utility easement, which is would only be for sanitary, sewer, storm sewer, and water. Water, it does not have it's not a public utility easement, like it is in the back, where it's both a VUE and a PUE, but in the front right now, it's only a. So that would need to be, we need to apply the easement, change that to, if the board approves this, we would need to do a plat of easement to add a public utility easement within that same space in the front.
Okay, and then underneath that description, it says minimum. Is there any instance where that would need to be larger than 10 feet?
Very rarely, I mean,
But it is possible that some of the lots, because of the way this is written, would have more than a 10-foot easement.
So I can't think of an instance where it would, in the plans that we've defined, that we've got so far, but I would say it would be, it's a unique instance where it wouldn't need to go in there, but it would probably be for that same reason, for some reason, to keep it in the right of way. I'm sorry, you're talking about dry utilities, right?
No, I'm talking about the 10-foot village utility
Yeah.
easement that you want to switch to a 10-foot utility easement. Underneath village utility easement, it
Yeah.
says MIN for minimum.
Minimum, yeah.
And then would it need to
So-
be more than 10?
So in the event that a sanitary sewer or a water main would go beyond that 10 feet, it would be shown on that very specific plat. On the final plat, it would show that easement being wider. And I don't believe that's the case here, right? So it isn't like they can just, this is the standard depiction for every lot, right? But in the event where it's wider, it needs to be wider than 10 feet for whatever reason, it would show it on the plat.
And then, I'm not going to say final in case I have another question.
Sure.
I've read through this agreement, or the resolution, and nowhere in the resolution am I finding, and I may be missing it, anything that references a mandate to have screening. It just talks about moving the easement to the, or moving the utilities to the front. So while we see great pictures here and we talk about you're going to require developers, there's nothing legal saying that you have to. And so I have a little concern about that.
Was one of my questions as well. That could be added, I mean, thank you, Chair. That could be added if that's the will of the board.
Shouldn't it have been added before we discussed it? That this is mandated and not the point?
Well, this was hypothetical to the group. We asked them to come and present some different ideas first, and whatever we decided, because whatever based on our discussion, we could add it.
Well, I thought based on the discussion, it seemed like, and I'll have to go back and watch, that everybody was in agreement that there needed to be screening. You couldn't just have these out.
I believe the conversation was, it was an opportunity to reimagine the entire.
Flat, but that's not what happened.
No,
here.
it wasn't, I watched the video and it wasn't the plat, it was to reimagine the subdivision was the conversation, not the specific word plat.
Sorry.
And so this was their definition of reimagining
Subdivision?
the subdivision and what it would look like with the utility boxes in the front. So based on that, we would either decide if we allow the utility boxes in the front of the yard, and if the board wanted to go along with this, we could specify the screening, correct?
Yeah, and apologies, I see reimagine a subdivision more than 3 drawings of what screening is, whether the word plat was used or not. Reimagining a subdivision is a little different than screenings. But regardless, we all talked about the fact that we didn't want to see the utility boxes in the front yard.
Sure.
So that's one of the concerns, unless I missed it, but it sounds like I didn't miss it.
No.
It's not in there.
And if that's something the board wants, we easily add that. Normally, if you're making a change like this, you wouldn't put the screening in there. You would make the procedural change of the let me rephrase, the depiction on there. So that's a very easy add, and happy to do it. Just whatever the board.
Well, the screening part of it would normally be in the development agreement, right?
Right.
which we've already passed.
Correct.
So we can't go back and change the development agreement without going through the zoning process, because that's a substantive change.
And it's also, if I remember correctly, that the Crown Development Agreement is actually an annexation agreement, which means under section 415.1 of the municipal code, we'd have to have a public hearing and then do it as well. We could add that in here if this is a condition of what the board wills.
And then that would address it moving forward.
Hold on, I'm confused though. So you just said to add screening, it has to go into the development agreement, which is an annexation agreement, it has to go back through the whole process.
No, I did not say that. What the president asked was that it's normally in a development agreement.
Correct.
If we were going to put it in there, we would have to go back through that process.
Okay.
We can't add it in here independent of the development agreement if that's the will of the board.
Okay, so it can just be.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And if we add it to this resolution, this would require any utility box in the front of the home, regardless of where it is, moving forward to be screened now and forever.
Only in these projects.
Only in these projects.
It would take an ordinance, a village ordinance to prohibit, to require utilities in the rear yard. We don't have an ordinance like that. So we don't prohibit utilities in the front yard. In fact, if they had applied for this, as Stan said at the last meeting, it might have been approved by staff. It wouldn't even have to come to the board for the front yard. We would have brought it to you because it was something new, but it wouldn't have been required. So the only reason this is required is because the PUDs were shown in the rear yard instead of in the front. And by the way, we're not changing the size, we're not changing any lot lines, it's just putting this other equipment in the same utilities.
So because the board is concerned about the appearance of this and any other boxes moving forward, and this is a change that ComEd is inflicting on us, does it not? My thought process is, instead of a resolution for this subdivision, does it make sense to do it via ordinance so that now moving forward, it would require screening of these?
I would not recommend that at this point because I don't think we know yet what exactly is going to play out in this whole world of Commonwealth Edison and in this new process. Many communities have already just given in and let me put it this way, as I think I said in the agenda supplement, I certainly said it 2 weeks ago. Utilities are going to be in the front yard everywhere eventually. It's just a matter of where we draw the line in Hampshire. The next project that comes in, I'm sure they'll submit it with front yard easements. And I expect that this board will agree. It's going to happen everywhere. Some communities are holding out a little longer. But a lot of the inner suburbs have had development going on sooner than us because they didn't have planned properties that were out there to build on so much. So this is happening all over Chicago area, and only in a few places have they really drawn a line. I can only think of one case, I think it was Yorkville, that may have passed an ordinance that prohibits them in the front yard. But only one community I'm aware of. Everybody else, eventually the clock will run out.
South Elgin, you know better. I think South Elgin requires it in the backyard too, right?
Yeah, I'm actually outside of South Elgin.
Oh, you're
outside of Florida, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Across the street.
Oh.
Next door. So yeah, I'm not quite sure what South Elgin, I've spoken about it. Not quite sure what they require, but they might have. Yeah.
I thought they were backyard only too.
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
I will say, every community is struggling with this.
Yeah.
Comments you're making here. So I mean, it's a tough decision, I get it, but it's a really important decision. So, appreciate that consideration.
Where does that leave us then if we want that change included in here?
Oh, we could add it as a recital as the second to last or penultimate recital that says, whereas the village will require screening on each of the, I'll need to work, and trustee, I apologize, but the technical words from Crown
I
and the
get
builder.
it, yeah.
But we could put it as a second or third to last recital and put in a whereas clause, a preamble, that they get incorporated in through section 1 substantively. We could also add it to the end of section 2 and just put an affirmative covenant that the village will impose screening requirements when final engineering comes through. And obviously, we're not going to put this in the ordinance, trustee, but I'm sure you understand this. When you talk about subdivisions, so much of this is controlled through the subdivision process and the CCRs and the management company that we are not going to address this in this resolution,
as Jay said very artfully, this is a finite resolution about these projects. So either one of the two issues. I would prefer to put it in the recitals. I just think it's better because you tell the narrative up front, so when people ask the questions, they've already read it by page 2, and people have fleeting attention spans now. So by page 2, they've already known what's going on. So we could add a recital that says something to the effect of, whereas the village has imposed a screening requirement upon the developers and successors in the projects going forward. Please let me wordsmith that a little bit better,
Absolutely.
but I think that would probably cover it, to be honest with you.
Do we need to have some kind of a listing for screening, give them a screening requirement? So after everything's agreed upon, they don't put one bush and walk away and say, we screened it.
Well, that's what I was just gonna say. I would like it to be worded to say, because these were provided by you and your landscape architect,
Yes.
that it says must be screened as one of the 3 examples provided in this packet.
Why don't we make it group exhibit? Exact, yep, yes, you guys are exactly right. We will put it as, I think exhibit A gets taken in, if you'll excuse me.
And if you would, your screening is the appropriate word, landscape screening, and absolutely will commit one of, that each one is required, one of these. But I would like to include the word substantially similar to, because
Yes.
we need to give the architects,
This is still a concept, but
yeah, you give them the flexibility to do their job.
Yeah.
So when it reads, it makes a decision that much even easier. We will put it in as the 3rd to last recital. So there'll be a whereas clause that will incorporate an exhibit B, which is essentially going to be that depiction. It will probably be black and white. And it will be substantially similar because, of course, it's not going to be the exact height of every fence. It might be a little bit different, but we know what the spirit of the agreement is. And I'm sure, and I'm not asking for this as an agreement, but I'm sure that similar language will be in your CCRs.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Vasselli, just because I'm not an attorney, can you explain substantially, what was the word again?
Substantially similar.
Similar. What is substantially similar?
Sure.
When does it get out of substantially similar?
And that's an excellent question. We spent about the first year of law school talking about reasonable man and substantially similar. So it means akin to, similar to this. So if the bushes come in and they're all 1 inch tall, and these are, I would say approximately 3.5 feet, 3 feet.
yes.
Okay, so
If you scroll down to the top of the exhibit,
yes,
that actually has numbers of plants. So,
Quantities usually is.
if you're doing this, if you're referencing the
Correct.
exhibit, substantially would be, what that would allow us to do is we would focus on those quantities, but have the freedom to choose different plant species, based on what's available in nurseries and things like that.
And similar coverage.
Yeah,
correct.
But not 1 inch tall plants.
yeah, pansies wouldn't count.
So I'm gonna ask, and we will draft the language if that's the will of the board. I'm going to ask the gentleman to either we contact tomorrow with regards to substantially similar, because you think substantially similar means quantity and quality. So you don't want marigolds and you don't want one plant right there, right? And so substantially similar in quality and quantity to exhibit B, which will come right after exhibit A. And then there'll be one document for these projects for a finite resolution to this issue, which seems to be a simple oversight. They'll have double coverage, both from the village and from the management company for the CCRs and the subdivision.
So how would we make a motion to that effect?
Was there a motion made on that?
Sorry, there's
No,
another
there's
question.
not been.
There's a question.
Right.
There has not been a motion made yet.
So to that effect, we would, oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry,
Mr.
one of my
Chair.
trustees had a question.
Yeah, sorry. We had some discussion about the fencing and, the plants can maintain themselves generally. Fencing requires upkeep. In addition to the fact that, when a kid is riding their bike, yes, they might hit their head on one of the boxes. However, helmets are always advised. But some of these are right at the right height, and I have two very active number one children, so perhaps that informs my questioning. These for me, I'm looking at horrible piercing injuries. Because been there so many times. Oh my God. Okay, yeah, so, as we're discussing substantially similar, I would ask the board to consider that perhaps that substantially similar does not necessarily include fencing, but could include plantings that would provide the same or similar, screening. Do you understand what I mean? Not necessarily, but just something that would allow that fourth season screening without necessarily having to keep a fence, because not everybody wants to keep up a fence in the front yard. And also second request, would we consider native plants so that they would be more apt to survive benign neglect? That's the nicest way I can say that. Native plants as opposed to
There's grasses that they have that you can grow on asphalt.
It's
I understand.
Carl's expertise.
Yeah. No, I totally understand.
He does all our naturalized.
If you could just limit this answer to about 10 minutes, please.
So, we're actually, we're depicting in the front, purple coneflower, and some of your native plants. In this case, I am a lover of native plants, and I like to use true native, especially like in the stormwater ponds and things like that. But in a small area like this, we pick native cultivars, like a prairie dropseed. A native prairie dropseed is a big wild grass, and if you use the carousel native prairie dropseed, it's more compact and behaves itself a little bit better. So I wouldn't want to restrict it to just native plants.
Neither would I. I was just
Yeah.
asking that we would at least consider them
Oh, absolutely.
more favorably.
Sorry. Yes.
Okay.
And this plan does allow that, because by design, the plants are identified, right? Quantity and size. As far as the fence goes, if, as Carl said, that our attempt with the fence was to draw your attention away from those pedestals, which is really high, right? It's hard to see. I'm a landscape guy. I like landscaping versus hardscaping. If it's the board's desire, we certainly can have the option of removing that fence, right? You're not requiring that fence. Perhaps we could do it, and Jimmy help me out here, but perhaps we could do that with staffs. I don't think you want us coming back with every homeowner, approving, getting rid of fence or not getting rid of fence. Those staff's approval, right? Perhaps we can get, the consideration can be made for not requiring the fence, if that makes sense. So
We have senior areas too that you've got in some of these areas, and they're not gonna be riding bikes or be as accident prone as the kids.
Oh,
are.
absolutely.
Well, I should say as daredevilish. Let's give that.
Right.
They're only gonna hit it one time.
Right.
have a biker,
Okay,
get a few fences in the
Yeah.
back.
but you're not gonna be on the sidewalk, most likely you'll be in the street,
Yeah.
but the kids will be on the sidewalk, so.
Just something to consider,
Mhm.
and I feel better having said it.
It's a good comment.
We have to then, table this so that you can put together that paragraph? I mean, or can we do a consensus of the board so they can move
If I
forward?
may, Jim,
Yeah,
respectfully, a request, even if it's conditioned, I request a decision or a vote tonight, because we need, as I mentioned earlier, our builders due diligence period are running out very shortly before the next period, before the next board meeting. So if we do a vote tonight, I respectfully request that, even if it's conditioned on whatever the board desires.
I trust Jay and Jimmy enough to work out the language.
Mhm.
And before I sign it, I'm gonna have to sign it, and if the language isn't right, it's gonna come back to the board. It's just the way it's gonna be.
Okay.
Jim's got something.
And I'm just working it out. Whereas Crown will be required to insert landscape, and there's probably a better word than insert, but whereas Crown will be required to insert landscape screening substantially similar in quality and quantity with plantings, grasses, perennials, and certain fencing and native planting to Exhibit B attached here to incorporated here. So,
And B becomes the landscape drawing.
yes, B becomes a landscape drawing. Obviously, I would like a little bit of time to wordsmith that,
Yeah.
but the motion could be made, because there is no motion on the floor.
Correct.
With an amendment to include a recital with regards to the insertion of landscape.
As discussed by the board
As discussed by the board.
at this evening.
They work, you know.
But I was
saying, you know, if it
Yeah.
is the board's decision, you know, regarding the Thanksgiving issues, you could extend that, maybe, if again, board likes that idea, extending it where, you know, with staff approval, the fence can be eliminated, perhaps. I don't know, maybe
Is there
it's
a
getting.
consensus of the board? We've only heard from one trustee about fences. Is there a consensus about fences?
I'm good with that.
Yes.
But make the fence optional, is that what you're saying? Sorry.
I was just saying, I like the look of the fence. Maybe we don't make it a picket fence, but if that's a concern. But a type of fence, I think, to their point, draws your eye away. And then there are multiple types of fences that can go in there that avoid spikes.
If they scallop,
Not a wrought iron spiked fence.
if they scallop the fence the other way, would that make your fears of Hampshire wounds?
Have you met either of my children? How old is my baby?
He's a klutz, just like his dad.
How many of us have had a?
And again, we're not proposing the fence, but it would be just trying to.
Yeah.
My thought is,
Yeah,
if you trust staff, obviously, you know, with staff, you have to use staff approval. So it isn't like we're going to willy-nilly remove fences, that's not.
And this will come in with every neighborhood with the landscape plan that will be reviewed by engineering and approved by staff.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry, I have to ask a question on something. So that's why I said it would be my last question. You just asked us for a vote tonight because you have whatever agreements ending with builders. Are you saying that you have builders that will pull out if this doesn't get passed?
As I expressed earlier, I can't say that for sure, but I know they've all expressed, you never know why they would pull out. We never know, right? And sometimes it comes down, you get, you know, they're in, and they're in feasibility period right now. 90-day feasibility period, both running out very soon. They're scheduled to close in December. They've expressed that this is a concern of theirs. And they've had other concerns too, that's pretty technical, but they've expressed this is, you know, to the point where one of the builders was here last week, or last night, right? I'm not gonna say, they have not said that if the village does not allow front yard utilities, they're gonna follow. They have not said that, no. But they've expressed enough concern that I'm concerned about.
Trustee Kelly, I've met independently with both builders without Crown in the room, and I can tell you it's a serious possibility. One in particular, I think, well, not just because of this, there are other costs associated as well, but this is one of the considerations. The Oakstead project, I think, is a risk. And that could be, even if you pass this, that could still be a problem.
And this is just for Oakstead.
No, this is Oakstead and Prairie Ridge. Prairie Ridge, ComEd's vehicles are sitting over there waiting for direction on where to go tomorrow.
You guys want to vote on this?
Yep.
Okay. I will entertain a resolution approving the front yard public utility easements for Prairie Ridge and Oakstead. Subject to the changes that we spoke about with the addendum and the exhibit and the language coming from Mr. Pacelli.
So moved. Second.
Questions, comments, concerns? I think you're gonna have to call roll call on this.
Mr. Coe,
Aye.
Mr. Matt,
Aye.
Ms. Palastrellini,
Aye.
Mr. Robinson,
Aye.
Ms. Fodor,
aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for your questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, Mr. Mayor, we would ask for consideration of an ordinance amending Chapter 2 of its regulations regarding no parking areas. We have in the packet a brief agenda supplement from Mr. Ray. This was requested by Mr. Starrett, who doesn't attend meetings very often tonight, but he's with us tonight for several reasons.
Hi, Mr. Starrett.
Hello, everybody. And, also back to it as well, hands off.
Mr. Panzoff, how are you, sir?
I'm very interested in several topics tonight, one of which has already been approved, the Public Works Garage, so I'm very thrilled about that, as well as this one. So these are mostly new roads that if you not have no parking signs, and right now, we're experiencing a lot of truck parking all over the place. So we need to post that so that we can take, as well as during the winter plowing. So that's a priority. And then you have on here as well, you might recall a few weeks ago, a woman came and spoke. I kept in touch with her. She was really thrilled to see the signs go up, by the way. They're already up. We wanted to get them up so that they could see, get used to them before we start enforcing. So that was at the request of a resident. And we worked that out with the principal and the school district. It was a very, very inclusive process that I enjoyed working. So we would ask for consideration of that, please.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Hedges, Mr. Starrett, or Mr. Panzoff, or Chief?
I did. I was just gonna say, like, communications was a big deal for me then, and you've already said you've already put it up there that.
Well, I'm sorry, first I put a letter in every mailbox before they went up, telling the residents that live on that street that they would be going up. And to call me if they had any concerns. I didn't receive any calls.
Okay, because I mean, it hasn't passed yet. Okay.
The signs would come down if you choose not to pass it, but we just wanted to get it because for a safety factor.
I get it, and I know this becomes in full force in effect 10 days after the passage, approval, and publication, et cetera. So it's not just those neighbors that live there, it's the parents that park there, like, and I'm just specifically for the school area.
Yes.
Parents that just come in there and do it. So my suggestion would be then is, and I hate to give Public Works something else to do, but maybe then before, should this pass, that maybe we use flyers and then just walk up and down that line of cars.
Well, actually, what we're doing is relying on the principal to communicate with her parents.
Yes, so the school is really good about communicating with the parents all the time. So much so that when we put up, there was a problem that we were noticing at the corner of Prairie View Parkway and Terwilliger. They communicated the fact that we were noticing a problem. They tried to change their behavior on their own. It didn't happen. When they worked with us, we put up no U-turn signs and then they communicated.
Okay.
So I really think that, I mean, any change that we've made as far as any traffic flow in all the school districts has been very receptive to, thanks to Trustee Coth and his hard work a few years ago with Hampshire Middle School. When we speak, they listen. So I would think that, I think if it becomes a problem, we should involve our staff, but really, I think the school district should carry the water on this one because it's their parents.
Okay, and even like they could have staff members of their own, maybe as a suggestion,
Sure.
just to kind of walk up and down while they're waiting for the kids and just remind them.
Or have police there writing tickets.
I was just gonna say, our police will be
Education is always expensive.
Yeah. No, I mean, because obviously we don't want to make them angry. They're going to be irritated
They're
anyway.
gonna see a sign that says no parking and
Right.
park there, you're gonna get taken.
But it is the safety of the kids, and that is where this came from, is because, kids were darting out, and it is a dangerous situation, so. And
Hey,
I
keep in
think
mind,
everyone-
the village,
Pardon?
the village captures, all of the cost of a ticket.
Okay.
It doesn't go to the courts and everything else.
Parking. Sorry, I have a question. Did we address that parent's concern though? Because I thought her concern was either Click or Prairie Street.
No, our concern was,
Prairie Street.
Prairie Street, yes.
And Prairie Street's not listed on.
Yeah, it's at the bottom, it's the next sentence,
Yeah, there's a second right underneath. It says the police
below the
department.
bullet points.
Police department would also like to add the section of Prairie Street from Terwilliger to Edgewood as a no parking area during school pickup and drop-off.
It's GG.
Why are we separating that?
And I'm not sure why.
That's my mistake. The agenda supplement's bad style.
Street department wants the bullets, the police want the Terwilliger
Is it?
bullet
G?
points.
Well, because 7 Terwilliger talks about school drops off, so I picked it up too, so that's why I missed it. My only comment on this, I mean, it's fine, but this doesn't account for early exit days.
Sure.
Like half days, because I could park on the side of the street during the early let out days and be within this ordinance, and I'm back to the same issue that existed before.
They don't do early release days now. They do late starts. So that's once a month. They do it. But as of
So
right
what
now,
time's late start?
late start is, day 10 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, so that's between 8 a.m. and 2 p.m.
I don't know how we account for.
I mean, do we just say
That's once a
7 a.m.
month.
to
That's
3
once a
p.m.?
month. Once a month.
The issue, I agree and understand what you're saying. I don't know how we address their schedule and that changes, because if they decide next year to go with late starts or end late starts and go with, early releases again, their
I'm just-
policy decisions, I don't.
I was just trying to make it easy
Sure.
for the community to follow. If you were to say 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. on school days, then you don't worry, okay, well, I was parked there at 10 a.m. on a late start, or do we have to go by and have everybody move their car at 1:45 so they're not there at 2?
No, I understand what you're saying.
Or do we just say from 7 to 3?
We ran into this problem years ago, right when I first got on the board. We had, Edgewood was no parking from certain time to certain time. And a lot of the residents over the years were pretty upset about it, and the fact that they couldn't even park their car in front of their house during the day, period, because they lived next to the school. And so, I mean, and that's why we looked at the approach of doing before and after, and thought we could try to get most of it. I understand where you're coming from. I just don't know. I think that if we had said, sorry, that you live on Prairie, you can't park in front of your house during the majority of the school year, or majority of the time of the year, I think the residents might be a little mad about that.
I would be.
I mean, unless we did some kind of permitting process where they could do it, but then how do you?
We can always readdress this. We can pass this and readdress it if we need to tweak it from 7 to 3:33 PM or 3:18 PM or whatever you want to do.
I just think taking parking away from the residents all the time, most of which on that block, most of them are home all the time. I think that they'd have a problem with it. I think they understand where there's a problem and safety concerns and stuff like that, but if you say you can't park there all day long and you don't have any kids in the school, you might have a problem.
Is it too hard to delineate who is a resident parking there because it's their property and who's dropping their kid off or picking their kid up? Is that,
We'd have to do some sort of permit. We don't have a system for that.
okay,
Like sticker in your window kind of thing?
Usually the parents sitting in the car.
no, not if you're on Prairie, you're gonna get out of your car and you're gonna walk over to the school.
Yeah, but it'll identify the parents then are still in the car waiting.
No, they don't do that. They park there and then they
And
get
then
out
they
and
get
walk
out,
their kids
it's a
down the
block,
street.
it's a block to the east, so you're not, no, you have to go back.
Avoid the drop.
Thank you, I didn't
So-
know that, okay.
And they avoid the drop-off line completely.
Okay.
Is it possible to give those residents like a free sticker that here, or
I
something?
looked at all the driveways and
Hang tag?
all of the driveways on that street have plenty of parking. They have room for 2 or 3 cars at least.
Oh, yes.
So I think it's just a matter of convenience. And personally, I wouldn't inconvenience the residents any more than we need to. It's just during those hours that it's been a problem. So that's why we recommend this one.
And for the Prairie View Parkway one, we're not gonna ticket somebody who's in line to go drop off a child.
And they
Right,
wouldn't
they
be
have to
parked.
be parked. Yeah, okay. Because I know sometimes that line can wrap.
The line's gonna wrap more next year when the Terwilliger gravel parking lot gets shut off and the district won't be able to use it. There'll be another 30 cars out the street. Yep,
At the park?
yep.
They're using that?
They're using the grass to turn around in and they're rutting it all up. I'm putting telephone poles up so they can't get in. I just need an end loader.
It's got one for you.
Just for the sake of, the organization, because Gigi's just kind of sitting there for me, is that section completely different? And so this isn't it doesn't flow, it's separate, but it's just sitting there. Okay, because I just wanted to see where that fit in, but, okay. Thank you.
We had a very similar arrangement with Edgewood and I think Street when the high school was here, because kids would avoid buying parking permits and they'd park their cars and then walk the few blocks. And it was, we had it all day and the residents, we had it all day because high school kids drove, elementary school kids don't, not yet. and so that was a problem, and that's why we had restricted parking. And as soon as the high school moved out, there were residents here saying, can we pull this back now? Can I find you park in front of my house? So, all right. I will entertain a motion, unless there's any other questions. I will entertain a motion to amend chapter 2 of the police regulations regarding the parking.
So
Yeah, good. Questions, comments, concerns? Ms. Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Matt,
Aye.
Ms. Palastrellini.
Aye.
Mr. Robinson,
Aye.
Ms. Fodor,
Aye.
Mr. Kelly. Mr. Coe.
I,
Good evening. I'm going to open the public hearing now. Annual presentation of the annual corporate tax levy for 2023. Do we defer to public comments to get started, or do we do the presentation first?
Comments. Mr. Jim Schultz.
Good evening and welcome.
Good evening. I saw the public notice.
Sure.
And my question is just basically why 10%, why not 8%? I know that inflation, because the notice basically tells you why we do not need more money, because we don't have a lease and we don't have in the interest expenses on that debt. So my question is why 10%?
So we typically don't dialogue in this
Okay.
in this fashion. However, I think that with Ms. Lyons' presentation tonight, you'll get, and the dialogue you'll have with the board, or that we'll have with staff, I think that you'll get the answer to your question.
Yeah, because it'd be nice if something was in the statement.
Understood.
Because it makes it look like it's a tax increase on a residence, not the amount we're increasing on total taxes collected because of new development.
Okay,
So it doesn't mean like your tax goes up 10%.
because when I look at this,
It's worded that way,
it's worded
absolutely.
at 10%.
And that's why Ms. Lyons does a
Right.
phenomenal job with her
Yeah.
presentation.
I asked, and after the meeting tonight, if you still have questions, we're all gonna be here, you can ask us any
Okay.
question you want. But it's not, your taxes aren't going up 10%.
Okay.
Okay, it's
Because
not.
that's what it looks like.
No,
Yeah,
and
Ms. Lyons does a
Ms.
good
Lyons
job.
will explain what the levy is and the purpose of it and all that stuff. So my ask, and if anything doesn't make sense, I ask after the meeting, you stick around and we'll talk to you.
Okay, sounds good.
We encourage you to flip your chair over here so
Yeah,
that you
yeah.
can see the whole thing when she starts.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Come sit over on this wall if you'd like to.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Anybody else who wants to sit?
Oh, you're a little closer.
Move to this side.
Just move around the cabin and figure out where you want to be.
Whatever works good for you.
It's a confusing municipal thing that we have to do every year. Really.
I know, and I think I know why, but the way it's written, it's,
We have to conform to state statute with our
Darn lawyers.
publication.
I worked for the state one time.
Oh, even better,
Well,
even better.
you know.
So you understand why it doesn't make sense then?
Oh, yeah. I got 3 years with the state, so yeah.
All right, so I'll just do a quick presentation or entertain the ordinance.
Now we have, just for attorney's purposes.
Yes.
We have everything published appropriately in the papers, notifications were met, everything's good.
All publications are made in accordance with state law. The form of the notice comports with state statute. The exact language is required by state law to be in that notice, where there's an explanation of why its verbiage is that way. And we have met all requirements by state statute. So thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Use that for the record, sorry.
Absolutely, and it's just a note on the publication. It's called a black box notice, which Karen has learned, and it's very specific on what language should be included or must be included. And so that's exactly why you get kind of a vague thing, but it's cost prohibitive to like really do anything supplementary to that. Like to maybe do an explanation. So that's why it's great that you're here. All right. So I'd like to share with you just a few precursors with respect to this. So I wanted to point out our general fund revenue sources. And these are based on our budget for 2024. Property tax makes up 21.9% of the village's general fund revenues. And here's my famous dollar graph. When you pay $1 of taxes, 5.75% of, or 5.75 cents of every dollar comes to the village. The levy amount and the tax rate will be determined by Kane County's, the clerk's office, as well as, McHenry County this year. So our levy will cross both counties if, well, there's some issues with that, I believe, but, we would be filing both in Kane County and McHenry County this year. When we file our levy request, we will be limited based on the PTEL, or property tax extension limits. And so our levy will actually be reduced and not, we will not receive 100% of that. PTEL tells us that we can the village can increase taxes the lesser of 5% or the prior year CPI index, plus the value of new construction. The 23 levy calculation is based on multiple factors: the consumer price index, as we discussed, the state multiplier, the EAVs, or the equalized assessed valuation of the homes and other properties in Hampshire, the prior year extension, and a value for new construction. If it was simply a two-factor calculation, you could take last year's extension, which was $1,277,449, and add the lesser of either 5% or the CPI index, which last year was 6.5%. So we are limited to the 5%. That would add $63,872 to the amount of tax we would receive, $1,341,321. But we had over $9 million in new construction in 2023, 2024, and therefore, no, 2023 for collection in 2024. It's very confusing to me. So new construction was over $9 million, and that will add approximately $44,800 to the amount we can collect. So this year, we are asking for 10%, and that is $1,405,200. But the village is really only expecting $1,386,200. We built in extra because if we don't capture all the new property, we will lose it, and we'll forever lose that because you can't make up. You're always stuck with that 5% or the CPI index, whichever is less. So in this particular slide, I'm showing you what the levy request is. So we're asking for it in different line items. So the village has the corporate tax levy, or the general fund levy. We have a line item for Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund. We have a line item for police protection, for audit purposes, for liability insurance, and also for Social Security. When you actually see your tax bill, it's actually broken up into only two pieces. It'll say Village of Hampshire, and that includes everything except for IMRF, and that is separately stated on your tax bill. Page down. There we go. I went up. Sorry.
No, you're
No,
gone.
not showing.
You're gone.
Sorry.
We have had nothing but IT issues all day today.
I think we should fire the guy that normally fixes it.
Yeah, maybe so.
Maybe he's a problem.
Gosh.
see you.
Try this. Right. Oh, just-
Oh, man, we're getting there now.
Let me go from this slide.
Okay.
Okay,
Here we are.
yep, see that? It's very slow. Okay, here we go. So what will happen to my tax bill? What I've done is I have taken a $300,000 home and calculated, or I'm reflecting what the taxes would have been to the village for the 22 calculation and the 23 calculation. So the 22 calculation would reflect the taxes that you paid this past summer and were collected in fiscal year 24. The 23 calculation are the taxes we're requesting this year. And they will be collected in 2024 in the village's fiscal year 2025. All right, so a $300,000 house has an equalized assessed value of 1/3 of that amount. Our state multiplier is 1. And so therefore your equalized assessed value is $100,020. Most people have a homestead exemption for $6,000, so I've included that in my calculation, making the taxable value $94,020. We had a combined tax rate for tax year 22, and that would be those taxes that you paid just this past summer, of 0.4601. And on a $300,000 house, you would pay to the village $432.59. Because we experienced the growth of over $9 million, I actually expect the tax rate itself to go down again. So that means that on that same $300,000 house, this assumes that there was no raise in value. This would lead to a tax bill of $415.78, a reduction of over $16. Yes.
Just a quick question, the combined tax rate.
Uh-huh.
What's combined then?
So combined means our, when you see that tax bill, you get 2 line items, Village of Hampshire, and I think it says pension, it doesn't say IMR, but yes.
Okay, so it combines those two, and that's
Yes.
the combined rate for those.
That's correct.
Okay, I thought that was it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Oh, did I lose it again? I'm hitting the enter button and it's kept kicking me out, but this is a good graphic, so I've got to sign back in. I don't see here. Sorry.
So because we extended the levy and can only assess so much, we have more to assess against, and that's why the tax rate is going down. Or the per home, correct? Tax dollars?
Right.
There it is. That was the whole gist. We don't need, any more fancy pictures.
No, it's not a dollar, but it is.
I like that dollar. I use that one all the time. Oh, well,
I know, I know.
County uses it too, when they send you your taxes.
So again, of the $1 that, for each dollar that you have to pay in real estate taxes, the village will receive 6 cents. 5.75. I'm rounding up.
She couldn't.
I didn't cut a penny. Okay? Okay. Does that help?
Yeah. Thank you.
Does anyone have any oh wait, your next slide has the
Oh.
question marks. I'm sorry. I'm looking.
Let me see. I'll try to hit the page down and we'll see what happens. Oh, there we go. It's slow.
Okay, so as Ms. Lyons said, are there any questions for staff or Ms. Lyons about this? First of all, thank you very much. I love your presentation every year because it explains it, because Not everybody understands how this works. Took me a long time to figure it out. And it's just,
The way we have to post it makes it confusing.
Yes. it does.
absolutely. And you're not the first person to come to us and say, why are you raising my taxes 10%?
That's basically what.
So the only way that we can actually raise your property taxes is if we go to referendum to raise them. And you would have to vote on them.
Okay.
We cannot raise your property taxes any other way.
I remember I worked for the state, so I.
And this is Illinois.
Yeah, right. All right.
I just have one comment and stuff, and I think it was from one of your earlier slides, is that, the tax that is generated from the property taxes is 1,405,200 is what we're projecting. But yet the budget is 26,982,898. So that's a difference immensely of $25,577,600.
25,000.
$25,577,698, which comes from other sources that is not coming from the taxpayers. So, I mean, some of them are fees, some of them are, different things. So I just kind of wanted to just.
So
touch upon
that, so our budget incorporates, when we're talking about, the overall budget, it includes, the road and bridge fund, and it includes the TIF fund, it includes everything. So, my demonstration or my, like my 21.9%
Mhm.
was general fund revenues only, because we
Okay.
utilize all of the property taxes in the general fund.
Okay,
So we don't have to levy for the TIF, like for instance, which is a property tax.
yeah,
That is, done based on the calculations, from the EAV base rate that was done way back in the day. So we don't have to, levy for that, but, yeah. So does that help explain that?
yeah, it does.
Yeah, and then when you look at the budget itself also, we don't actually budget 100% of the extension, just in case, there are people that will protest their taxes, or, somebody doesn't pay their taxes and it's not redeemed at the tax sale, or those types of things. So we don't always budget 100%.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Or can I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing and go back into open.
Make the motion to close.
Second.
All right. Thank you. We are now back in open session. And before you, you have the ordinance to, for the annual corporate tax levy for 2023. Do we have any other questions about the tax levy? I'll entertain a motion to approve the ordinance for the annual corporate tax levy for the year 2023.
Second.
Questions, comments, concerns? Ms. Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Ms. Palastrellini?
Aye.
Mr. Robinson?
Aye.
Ms. Fodor? Aye. Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Mr. Coe?
Aye.
Mr. Matt?
Aye.
6-0.
Awesome. All right, next we have the tax levies here. So again, we will do a presentation from Ms. Lyons.
She gets the rest today.
Hard enough that she has to put these together and then pray that they work when she gets in front of us.
Okay, here we go. So now we're going to discuss the village's special service areas that are designed for maintenance purposes. So I always provide you with a list of the Hampshire SSAs. There are some reserved numbers in there that have not been used. So there's not all the way from 1 to 29, and there have been some dissolved SSAs as well. So as they no longer are required, they have been dissolved. And this is a map. We did ask Tim Paulson at our last development staff meeting to have the map updated so that we can have all of the SSAs on there, because there are a few that are missing. So just like the village's corporate levy, the special service area tax is computed on an ad valorem basis, meaning it is proportionate to the estimated VA value of the properties within the special service area. This evening, we're going to only talk about a few of our SSAs. This excludes anything that is for infrastructure, those that are dissolved, and those that are inactive. So last year, we levied $51,910. This year, we're looking in total to levy $54,200. Now I just moved something, so I'm going to make sure that I press them. Oh, good. All right. We're going to go in number order. So the first one we're going to talk about is Special Service Area number 2, Old Mill Manor. And so this year we're asking to levy $1,800. This is a 9% decrease. This service area just has mowing. There's not a retention or detention pond in that particular. We have no areas that retain water. Let's put it that way. Okay. Any questions about SSA number 2?
The man behind the curtain is nodding his head in agreement.
Good. Good. So some of these are, as you know, we talked about 2 SSAs at the last meeting that require special consideration and public hearings for their particular SSAs. So I do have a special presentation on those 2 when we get to that piece, but we're just going to zip through all of the SSAs so that you know what we're levying by SSA. Okay, so the next one is SSA number 3, Panama. This is also an area that gets mowed. We're looking at a $300 levy this year, which is a 6% decrease. SSA number 6 is Hampshire Prairie. This is an 8% decrease to a levy of $6,000. The only thing that was special in this particular SSA is spraying, and that is going to be brought in-house this year. And so therefore, we expect to spend much less doing it internally rather than having a contractor do that work for us. Special service area number 7, Hampshire Hills, is one of the special service areas that we will be talking about in detail when we get to the public hearing. But we are looking at a 41% increase over last year's levy for amount of $9,000. Special service area number 8 is the next one, Hampshire Fields. This is, we're asking for $2,500. This is a 29% decrease over this past year's levy. SSA number 10, also one of our special SSAs that we'll talk about at a public hearing, White Oak Ponds. After the comments from last meeting, I have done a little bit of juggling with respect to some of the timing of the expenses. And so we're asking for an increase of 10% to $18,270. Whoops, I just went the wrong direction. SSA number 11 is for the Hampshire Highlands subdivision. This one is experiencing a 3% increase. The amount is $11,330. And the last SSA that we're going to speak about this evening is SSA number 12, Hampshire Meadows. This is an area where we're asking for a levy of $5,000, a 9% decrease over last year.
And that's just from,
Yes. Are there any questions?
You said we're at a 10% increase now for SSA number 10. What, can you tell me what the increase was proposed last time? I can't recall.
I believe I had 15% in there.
15%.
Yep, when we talked about it last.
Thank you.
Okay, I do have a question. If all the people that utilize the White Ponds S watershed were on here, would this percentage change? All the people that are on Highland, that all that flooding, all that dumps into White Ponds now, and they're not on it.
The actual percentage of increase would still be the same, but the dollar amount paid by a greater number of residents would make your taxes lower.
Exactly.
I believe, I mean, Mr. Vaselli can speak to this, but I believe that an SSA area can be amended. I mean, we have to go through the public hearing process and add those.
But it wouldn't need to be amended because they are utilizing the watershed I'm paying for, and they're not paying for it. So we don't have to amend anything.
Tax them, in order to tax them.
Yeah, in order to include.
Well, then we need to do an amendment. I don't mind paying my fair share, but I don't want to pay everybody else's.
Yes, there's a process.
Is it a referendum or does it just go through planning and zoning or is that, I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot. Do you look into the process and?
I'll be more than happy to look at the process. I believe it involves a public hearing. And much like the adoption of an SSA, you basically enlarge the boundaries by ordinance. So
Wait, we just had that for the school district, correct? It's the same process.
It is.
We amended the SSA.
Correct.
Except for
We had a
this,
public
except,
hearing, and then we adopt it. But I'll make sure that the law is passed out before the next board meeting, Mr. Chairman.
except for the fact that we would have residents that live in those areas that might not be happy with us. Again, I don't care whether they are or not as far as
Me
that
neither.
is concerned. I mean, it makes sense if they're using the facilities. Ms. Lyons actually, when we did all the work to that area, had suggested to the board at the time that we look into extending the SSA, and it was not favored by the board at the time to go through that process.
Would our staff be able to
We talked
figure
about
out
last month. I
exactly
think
where
we,
the, I
a
mean,
few
how
of
much
us here weren't
more is
favored.
coming from them or what they're
Yeah, actually, we
utilizing?
did the Highland Avenue, it was before you were on the board, I
Okay.
think, but we did the Highland Avenue flood remediation program. It was about, I think, only about $180,000. But we did redirect the flooding, or it was actually still in the street. It was designed to be in the street. They didn't like it in the street. So, yeah, we redirected it with our storm sewers to White Oaks ponds.
Well, to be
And we know exactly which homes were.
To be fair, Mr. Hedges, they didn't like it in the street because their garages were flooding.
Well, they never really did flood, they got close to flooding. Dave was out there with
Sandbags.
more than once. So, that family finally did leave. There was one family that was in here at board meetings several times, some of you remember. We had pretty crowded meetings, but yeah.
When you're drafting that to include, can you look at, I don't know who's got the maps of where, I'm sure they're all available, but where water is coming from, because I know it was redone. I believe part of SSA number 3 might be impacting number 10.
One thing I would like to add, or at least mention, is that it's one thing to say where water comes from village-wide. I mean, during rainstorms, depending on rain, weather, wind, everything else, it can come from anywhere. But we know that we redirected.
We
water
redirected that water
from Highland
specifically.
Avenue and the
Yes.
street next to it. I think there were 16 homes involved.
Okay.
If I remember correctly.
How many homes, just a ballpark then, are in the current one, the current White Oaks pond?
I can get you that information.
Like 200 or?
Oh,
No, a lot more.
A lot, okay,
No.
okay, so it's like the entire subdivision area then?
It's a lot.
I can get you that number. By the end of the board meeting, I'll have the number, okay?
Okay,
I promise.
that's good, because we're looking at, I mean, 16 more homes to add to it, and it's a huge amount, it's.
But you are gonna add the whole EAV, right, for that, and then spread this out further.
Okay,
Right.
okay.
And I don't mind, like I say, paying my fair share, but if you're part of the watershed that you and
Yeah.
I don't want to pay yours too. I think they should get on board because they've been getting the free for a while and it's not fair to other people to bear the brunt.
And we don't have other examples of that in any of the other SSAs, do we?
We haven't reconfigured any.
Yeah, not during my tenure, this is the only,
I was just
The
asking.
only other project we have is not saying that's parking.
I was just asking because if we were doing it to one, we should do it for everybody. Okay.
And I believe.
Clients, you have more? I'm sorry, I know we were kind of dialoguing here.
So that's my presentation. I believe you're gonna wanna open a public hearing for SSA number 7 at this point.
Okay. All right, I will open a public hearing now, for SSA number 7. Do the public hearing for SSA number 7.
No public comments.
Oh, and all the publications were made?
So,
All publication.
No, publication is not required for a special service area. It only requires agenda posting.
Thank you.
All legal requirements are made.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'll work on my phrasing for the next public hearing. Thank you.
Oh, I think I might have the number of parcels in here, so, okay. The special service area number 7 is Hampshire Hills. There are 3 detention areas totaling 16.0 acres. The Village of Mo is 1.97 acres, and there are 72 parcels. That includes the exempted properties within this area. Here's a map of this particular special service area. As you can see, there's, they're kind of unintuitively to me numbered. Unit 1 is down to the south. In the green area, that's a large area, 13.5 acres, and unit number 2 is at the top, 2.5 acres. The work completed on this special service area to date includes selective machining and hand clearing of invasive brush and small trees, burning, and also lots and lots of herbicide applications. In the beginning of fiscal year 24, we expect we had a negative fund balance of $11,668. Tax collected was $6,382. And I'm estimating fiscal year expenses because we're not quite done with fiscal year 24 yet. We have probably at least one good month of mowing left to add to those expenses, as well as the fuel and parts for the mowers, et cetera. So I estimate the expenses for this year to be $9,183. We're asking for the levy to be increased to $9,000. And we're making headway on that negative fund balance. So by the end of fiscal year 25, we expect a negative fund balance of $11,100. Are there any questions with respect to that?
The work that's being done there, then, the herbicides and everything else, that's currently being contracted out, and we are now bringing it in.
That's correct. That's why we're expecting the current year fiscal expenses to be so much less. Yes. And we did a lot of, like that machine clearing is exorbitantly expensive because you saw there was like a 13-acre area that had to be cleared. So.
Any other questions from Ms. Lyons on her presentation?
One last follow-up in that, in the presentation that you gave earlier, you said it was for 7 was a 41% increase.
Yes.
And in the agenda supplement, it lists it as 38.
Okay, so
Page 2 of it.
that is probably accurate. And I apologize, the 38% is
Okay.
probably accurate. My computer crashed this afternoon, and so I
Okay.
really didn't lose a lot of information.
Okay.
But yeah, I was scrambling at the end here to get some of that put in, so that probably is just a formula error. And what happens is, each year I update this spreadsheet, right? So it includes, the fund balance as it rolls forward through the years. When we go from, we always measure that percentage of increase from the amount extended last year, right? The
Mhm.
extension amount to the current year request.
Mhm.
And so I have to change that formula because now I know what the extension actually was. So that's probably my fault.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Any other questions?
When can we expect these fees to start going down or at least not increasing anymore for all of these?
Well, I think respectfully, I think we can only talk about SSA number 7 in this public hearing.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, I don't,
No.
we can talk about that in the next section, but I want to, I don't want to be talking about
So then
something.
specific to 7, when can we expect that to start either going down or leveling off? And
So as you can see, we're making headway with respect to, decreasing that negative fund balance. This is kind of a pivotal year because we are bringing a lot of the work in-house, and we're going to undertake a time study so that we can more accurately know. Before we had a time study, but it was only based on mowing because everything else was, subbed out. And now that we're bringing this in-house, it's obviously going to take more time, and we're not sure about the proportionality of, our wages. So we're hoping that as we bring more and more in-house, and pretty much everything's coming in-house at this point, except for burning, and if something, God forbid, would have to be machine cleared again, we're trying to stay ahead of that. We're just hoping that we can control the expenses so that the increases either are nominal or they can actually be decreased like we've seen in some SSAs.
Would it be fair to say that last year at the same time, we were talking about SSAs on December 1st, I think, and you had come up with a plan that detailed out until the year 2027? And by that point, we would have had enough training in that to bring everything in-house and then be enough of ahead of it. Are we still on track for, like, in answer to trustee Robinson's
So we can
question?
go back to the other PowerPoint because this one does go out to 2027 still.
Is it fair to say that around 2027, after we caught up with the maintenance, the neglected maintenance, brought enough of the services back in-house, and, theoretically, we're in a good spot that then the rates.
So we're not going to experience the same type of savings every single year because, we're going to bring a lot of it in, most of it in-house, except for those items that, I noted. Machine clearing and burning is definitely, we don't want the liability or anything else with respect to that. That will 100% always be contracted out.
Okay, I think the question is, by 2027, will we be
Not everybody's going to
back to
be,
routine pretty much? Routine maintenance at that
yeah, oh, I would
Will be
hope so.
caught.
And that's what I'm saying, so
Yeah,
things would
yeah.
that would start leveling out. You won't be coming to us and asking for increases theoretically because of neglect.
Not because of neglect, absolutely not. I mean, we'll still have expenses that we expect to have some type of inflationary increase and wages. I guess we'll get to the $15 minimum wage in Illinois because we charge the SSAs, the labor costs are at minimum wage. That will level off at $15 so that, that we won't see increases there. But, yeah, we're projecting, and that's the best we can do.
Does that help answer?
Yep.
Does anyone have any other questions about SSA number 7, or would you guys like to go into public hearing for SSA number 10?
We have to close it?
Absolutely, but I wanted to make sure that everybody had their 7 questions out of the way.
I'm fine with 7.
All right, I will entertain a motion to close public hearing. Actually, yes, you done absolutely went through it. Okay, we're in open session.
You hate a mistake.
I'll open up the public hearing for SSA number 10. Thank you for coming this evening.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, there were no public comments for this, so we'll just go right into our discussion. Special service area number 10, White Oak Ponds, includes 4 retention areas totaling 33.85 acres. There are 2.55 acres of area mowed and 173 parcels, Ms. Palestrini.
What was the number?
173.
Oh, thank you.
And that excludes any properties that are exempted. So here is a map. Again, the numbers are not intuitive, but Dave can explain that. Unit 1 is located at approximately 1 o'clock. Unit 3 is at 3 o'clock. Unit 2 is down at 6 o'clock, and I'd say Unit 8 is up about 10 o'clock. They are not numbered in order because there are some ponds over in Tuscany Woods that include 4 and 5 are in the Highlands, sorry. 4 and 5 in the Highlands, and 6 and 7 are in Tuscany Woods. So it's kind of weird, but we're gonna devise a new map and new numbering so it makes more sense. Okay?
Is that motion, first shot?
Maybe so.
There you go.
It's a map.
A GS project. The work completed in Special Service Area 10 has included selective machine and hand clearing of invasive brush and small trees in units 1, 2, and 3, herbicides in all, and burning of unit 2. So in fiscal year 24, we start with a negative fund balance of 17,836. Tax collected was 16,426. We estimate that the fiscal year expenses for fiscal year 24 will total 15,142, resulting in a beginning fund balance in 2025 of 16,552. In fiscal year 25, we're asking for a levy of 18,270 with expenses of 13,420, yielding a negative fund balance starting fiscal year 26 of 11,702.
Any questions for Ms. Lyons about SSA number 10? We do have Mr. Starrett here as well. Is there any questions about what's been done or what needs to be done?
Will the same answer apply to my question about 7 to 10? Do I need to ask it again for 10 or?
It's the same answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There are 4 areas, however, that, like will require burning, so that's, and 33 acres is a lot of property.
And so should this be expanded to include 16 more parcels, that 16 would go into added to the 173. So it wouldn't be a significant change, but everybody that is
$10.
using it will pay for it.
It's about $10 per home, you think?
About $10, not $10.
Okay.
And it's not, again, as trustee Coe pointed out, it's not
Nothing amount.
It's not the amount of paying, it's not paying the fair share, but as long as everybody that is utilizing that is paying the fair share, is where my contention is.
Absolutely makes sense.
Any other questions for Ms. Lyons about SSA number 10?
I think our attorney has a question.
Oh, yes.
Comment.
All legal requirements were met?
Excellent statement, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much.
Is that it?
That's it.
All right, awesome.
Oh, my God.
All right. I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Awesome. Welcome back to open session. Below, we have a consent agenda. I would ask that we look over the consent agenda. Again, this was only done to try to make it move along faster, but if there's something that the trustee would like pulled out of the consent agenda, we would do that at this time.
I don't like SSA number 10 being under the consent agenda until it gets rectified and everything. I don't approve of that.
Okay, so we can remove SSA number 10 from the consent agenda.
I'd like to remove 12 as well.
We can remove number 12 as well. We will vote on them independently. Do I need a motion for that?
To remove them.
To remove them?
I move to remove 10 and 12.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now, can I have the motion to approve the consent agenda again with number 10 and 12?
Do we have to have a motion to put them into a consent agenda
They're
first?
already in it.
Well, we need to We needed a motion to remove them from the consent agenda, but I still need a motion to approve the one that's there.
So this is for 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, and 11.
Correct.
I'll make your motion.
Second.
Questions, comments, concerns?
I just want clarification based on the agenda. Are we making a motion to approve the consent agenda, but not the items in the agenda?
No, the items on the agenda.
Correct.
That's
One
just-
stop shop.
That was my issue.
One vote for 6 items, no, 7.
Yeah, I thought you had to approve the use of a consent agenda first and then and then vote.
And we could do it that way, or we could also ask if there's any objections to using the consent agenda.
Okay, because I have no problems, I just want to make sure we do it correctly.
No, and so that's why I asked the trustees if they didn't want to vote on these as a consent agenda. We'd remove 10 and 12. We'll vote on them independently. Next, I would say that we should vote on what's in front of us, excluding 10 and 12, and then we can dialogue about 10 and 12.
We should probably just quit doing this because we spend more time talking about.
We're here, it's done. Let's get through it and we'll deal with it. So the motion as it is right now is a first and a second to approve the consent agenda with number 10 and 12 removed. So I have a first and a second. Ms. Clerk, are there any other questions about that?
So this is to approve the
Approve what's
consent
there.
agenda, everything that's in it, okay?
Correct,
Okay.
with the exception of 10 and 12.
10, 12, yes. Those would be two separate motions.
Okay. No other questions?
I guess this would be more of a comment. And it would apply to also 10 and 12. And a total here was $54,200. We're giving the businesses $100,000 a year. So, and in the facade program. So maybe we need to look into perhaps cutting that so we can use that money to help our residents. We've done, correct me if I'm wrong, the facade program has been going for 5 years or 4?
7, I think.
7.
Okay, so we're well over $500,000.
$600,000 the village has spent.
So we've spent $600,000 on businesses, $0 on helping these SSAs, our residents.
I understand what your point is as far as that goes, but I think that we've had some culpability in there in the fact that we
Oh,
pay,
no,
we
no, I
pay,
agree.
we pay, no, what I'm saying is that we pay our public works employees way above, not way above, but we pay them above, we pay them way above minimum wage, and we charge the SSAs minimum wage.
I completely.
Right, but
agree.
as trustee Kelly stated eloquently several times, this is the village's problem, not the resident.
Right.
The village has not done the job on any of these. And now we're going to those residents and saying, sorry, you're gonna pay. So I agree with Mr. Robinson.
I think
Maybe the facade should be cut for a year or two and get this under control. And give even Public Works more money to spend.
And I know the village was partially blamed with the negligence of the downtown area, and I think $600,000 put into it by us has good makeup. I think that's a good makeup, as you say.
Yeah, I think Mr. Sterrett's crew does a phenomenal.
Oh,
job.
absolutely, this is nothing you can say.
My argument that I've made multiple times is that this is part of the job of upkeeping a village when you accept development agreements, which all of these worked well before any of our times. And whether it's mowing or maintaining a pond or a detention area, that's what we do. Our staff does that and they do a phenomenal job at it. And we didn't put enough money, or I'm not gonna say we didn't put enough money. The SSA means we didn't tax people high enough, or previous boards didn't tax high enough and didn't maintain what was there. But I would still argue they shouldn't tax anything, that it's the job of the village to pay for the upkeep of the village. And that's been the argument that I have made on every occasion, and I make again tonight.
Completely agree with that.
So what, just as we're talking about this, what can the village do to make this right?
Abolish all of these SSAs.
Can't do that by law.
Make them zero.
You could do that, and then.
Get rid of the facade program for 2 years.
Okay, so the end result is then we have 60, I'm rounding up, like $60,000 in change in real dollars that are gonna come out of the general fund that we can't spend on other projects.
Mhm.
Period.
Like water,
Like any other projects,
like
period.
public works building.
Right?
So, I mean, and
Reducing
then,
a revenue source while we're at the same time considering increasing revenue sources, looking for new revenue sources.
We're talking, I mean, per household, I know all the houses are different, but we were talking $10 is what this SSA costs. But there are some, I think, that are like $9,500.
Oh, yeah, there are some that are over 100.
Okay.
is there,
Number 10.
is there any way, like, what would it take to get these to level out? Or is it that there's just more maintenance to do in some areas versus others over time?
That's very case. I mean, you've got, I don't know, Panama is, how big would you say that area is in Panama?
Detention?
Yeah,
area?
yeah.
Very small.
It's like a lot, right?
Well,
Maybe a quarter acre.
yeah.
A quarter of an acre compared to 33 acres in White Oak Ponds. And one of the other things that you have to consider is, like over the course of time, stormwater has changed. And we know that the stormwater areas downtown aren't as robust as they are in the neighborhoods that, came in later. In the neighborhoods that have these SSAs, they don't have homeowners associations that take care of that property. Like, for instance, Tuscany Woods, the village owns all of the land that encompasses the ponds and those types of things. But the village board at that time put the maintenance responsibilities on the homeowners association. So while the village is not taxing and that SSA is, I'll call it dormant, the homeowners association is assessing the residents a fee to take care of those things through their homeowners association.
But doesn't the White Oak Pond watershed, that's part of the city's water system?
Every pond in the city really
Right.
interacts like that. I mean, you all remember about a year ago, we had Mr. Paulson do stormwater management thing. So I think, Lori's point is well taken. I think, people who have a homeowner association would be paying for all these other SSAs in addition to maintaining their own ponds. So if that's what you want to do. but-
It's just the one, just the Tuscany Woods, or not Tuscany,
Like Prairie Ridge,
Lakewood is the only one that does it.
No,
Lakewood,
Prairie Ridge,
Prairie Ridge,
Prairie Ridge is necessary.
they're backup SSAs.
they all have SSAs, whether or not they're used or taxed is, the only ones that the ones that you see here that we're voting on are the only ones that are quote unquote active. So like if you notice,
They're primary, not
like,
backup.
like Lakewood Crossing has an SSA, we've used it, we're not
One
taxing
time,
it, we used it
did one
once.
time, but then they started taking care of the ponds, so we didn't have to.
So if we, to Mr. Hedges' point, if we decide to put these all at zero and put everybody and make it the entire village's expense, then as an example, Lakewood Crossing and Tuscany Woods, one of two things could happen, or in Prairie Ridge, one of two things could happen. The residents there could get upset because they're paying for everybody else's watershed, or the HOAs up there could say, you know what, we're not gonna pay for this anymore because you set the precedent. Now it's your problem, and then that $54,000 is 4 more subdivisions, and that includes Oakstead, and that includes Prairie Ridge, and it includes Lakewood, and everything from
Tuscany
now,
Woods also.
all in perpetuity. And this board is has always been concerned about setting precedent, and if we do that, that's a precedent that future boards will have to deal with, and then later on in life, the future boards are gonna look at other communities and go, well, they do this here, they do this in other communities, what the heck was that board thinking?
My statement should not come to any surprise to anybody in this room, because I've made it for 6 years, and I stand by my statement. I understand what you're saying, but I also know seniors pay for the school district, and I pay property taxes to help people in neighborhoods that I don't live in have nice roads. So it's part of being a part of a community.
So why can't we take, instead of cutting into, why don't we take half of the beautification money for 1 year and dump it into all these SSAs.
We had talked 2 weeks ago about abolishing that program and putting it into water mains. So I'm not against it. I'm not against it. I think this board has been very clear in the fact that this is probably the last year for that facade improvement program, because we could use $100,000 anywhere else. We've talked about that a couple of times in the last few weeks even. But the question needs to be determined, and I think that would be through the budget process, is where is that money best spent? It's a no-win situation for any of us. I understand everybody's point of view, but I don't. My concern would be setting a precedent like this and then having future generations deal with that.
The previous boards, of which before I got on, you were on, with Orson on them, they set precedent by looking the other way at the utility programs faltering, kicking it down the road. When you were part of those boards two terms before me. So there's no throwing eggs here.
I know that.
We got $100,000 that we don't need to spend on the buildings right now, and we have more important things. Do we want to fix our drainage system so our whole city don't flood? Or do we want to throw $50,000 or $100,000 at the amount of pipe we have to replace is from here to Soldier Field? It's not from here to Walmart.
Right.
It's from here to Soldier Field. Throwing $50,000 or $100,000 at that's like a bug on your windshield.
So I guess the question to staff is, I know we're not through the budget process. We have to vote on these now, otherwise we can't do it.
We can do it 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
So if we were to come up with a plan, I guess.
We're not gonna have a plan in 2 weeks.
No.
No, that's
The
not.
budget committee would have to kind of, thresh that out. to
My
determine
suggestion would
it.
be to pass it this year and we could deal with it next
Talk
year,
about-
but that's up to the board.
I don't disagree with you. I think it's like anything else that we've got going on. Could this or not benefit from an influx of funds? And would that help us get to where we need to be faster?
Sure, yeah, of course.
But at what expense? And, like we always talked about, like last year during the budget cycle, it was pretty contentious because it was, what did you cut? What's a want versus a need?
And we determined there's really only one want in the entire budget, and that's $100,000 for facade. And you can't fund everything in this village,
Correct.
but it comes up every time.
And that's what I'm saying. We all have ideas about where it should go, but where's the best spent? I think we all agree that we need to use that money elsewhere.
The people out in the street don't, because we have several applications pending right now, new ones for next year, so it's your call.
Right.
I understand it can't be done now, but I would one day like to see these at zero.
They'll never be at zero. You have maintenance on those ponds until this village gets enough money to run storm sewers down the middle of every
But
street.
with all the rooftop that are gonna be coming in the next.
They're not gonna be part of the watersheds of these, and they're not gonna be
No, but
paying
that's
into
gonna
it.
bring in more tax dollars, which will bring in more commercial, more business will be coming in, which will bring in more tax dollars. And I think it's possible in the future that we have enough money that the residents of these 8 SSAs, or how many ever SSAs, shouldn't have to pay to make.
My thought process is I don't like the big percentage of increases. I don't. I get that. But we also have to figure out a way to pay for it. So
If you live in a homeowners association, you can get the same, you're gonna get special assessments or regular assessments,
Right.
that's what happens.
Right.
What I'm hearing is that you prefer to have people in homeowner associations pay for their own ponds, but if you're not in a homeowner association, the entire village pays for it. That's, just want to make sure I'm hearing it.
no, that's
That's
not.
not me.
That's what I'm hearing.
I understood. That's what I hear too.
Mr. Kelly? Peace.
That's not what I'm saying.
That's what I'm
What
hearing.
I'm saying is that pond maintenance and mowing is the responsibility of the village. I didn't
Entire
say
village.
homeowners insurance.
So we should also maintain the ones in the
I'm
homes.
saying that we are paying for these because we didn't, as a board, not this board, but previous ones, have them go to homeowners association. So in this case, we're the one collecting. In the other case, the
The
homeowners
board doesn't make that
association.
decision, the homeowners decided they want a homeowner association.
No, that's what the developing.
Yeah, but they-
developer-
But you buy
That's not
into
us.
that knowing that there's a homeowners association and you know that going in. When you buy a townhouse and you know that there's homeowners association fees, that's part of it. So that's a little bit.
Regardless if you're in an HOA or not, my stance is that there are certain responsibilities I feel that are the village's responsibility.
A homeowner, correct me if I'm wrong, on most of these homeowner associations, and I know Tuscany is not one, but you also get other services involved with that homeowners association. You get your yard maintained sometimes,
It's not
plowed.
clear.
Yeah,
The village does all the snow.
not in the homeowners association. They
Oh, yeah.
probably
Oh,
contract.
yeah, we do the
On
whole
the
thing.
No,
streets.
we do
but-
the streets. I'm talking about if you're, so if you're in a HOA in a 55 and up, your driveway's plowed, your grass is cut, in
Do
some
we
of them.
have, do we have any of that? in
It's
the
like a
village?
town, it's like a
In the-
townhome.
In the townhomes.
So in the townhomes, we will be plowing all the streets in the townhomes right up north here.
But the
But
driveways,
the driveway is
driveway-
contracted out to a private and they will.
They're talking about
The
not.
HOA pays for you to have your snow plowed out of your driveway. You don't shovel your driveway. You don't cut your grass.
Del Webb, my dad, does all of that himself.
I think that's gonna be
But-
accurate in the rental apartments, but I believe at like the townhomes in Prairie Ridge, that are off of Kelly, I believe those people still have to,
They maintain their own property.
yes, I do believe so.
And I really think as far as like other services being offered, I think Lakewood Crossing, I think would be the only one that I can think of that has anything additional other than regular maintenance.
Tuscany
With the
doesn't
pool.
maintain their own.
And the playground and stuff.
That's what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
other than Lakewood Crossing, I mean, like the Tuscan,
Regardless of what they're doing, they're still paying for all. the
I agree, and that's what I'm
They're just
saying.
paying more for those other things.
Correct, that's what I'm getting at. Well, like I said, I don't know what the best way to handle this is. I know that we can work it out through the budget process, but if we don't pass the levies now, we're not gonna be able to collect on them for this.
I don't think it can be handled today. But as I said earlier, one day I would like to see this not be a burden on residents of these. I believe it's a cost of doing business for the village, maintaining the village as a whole, as a community.
Okay, well, where I'm at is, where we're at now is we have a first and a second to approve the consent agenda. And we've dialogued about it. I think we need to call the roll respectfully and then move on to number 10 and 12.
It's for everything there except number 10 and 12.
Mhm.
That's what we're voting on. Okay.
Correct. And we can work through the budget process for the rest of the time, hopefully. So Ms. Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Robinson.
Aye.
Ms. Fodor.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
No.
Mr. Coth.
Aye.
Mr. Matt.
Aye.
Ms. Palastrellini.
Aye.
Okay, now we have an ordinance for the tax levy and assessment of taxes for SSA number 10. Can I have a motion to approve that?
Thanks for lack of a first. I will make that motion.
Second. Questions, comments, concerns?
My comment is I would vote yes for it only if the 16 or 18 other houses are included. Without it, I implore the board of trustees to vote no until they come back and include the people that need to pay their fair share.
I don't think we can get that accomplished before the end of the tax year.
No, that would have to happen next year.
Would you do it with a commitment to beginning that process after the first of the year? I'm not horse trading. I'm saying that we talked about it, the staff understands.
Mr. President, I think you should call the vote.
Ms. Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Ms. Fodor.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
No.
Mr. Coth.
No.
Mr. Matt.
Aye.
Ms. Palastrellini.
Aye.
Mr. Robinson.
No.
It's a 3-3.
Okay. That, it's 3-3 or 3-4? So I have to roll? It's 3-3?
Yeah.
Aye. Okay, next we have SSA number 12, an ordinance approving the levy or levying the assessment of taxes in SSA number 12. And entertain a motion to approve that.
That's,
First, Mr. Robinson, second, Mr. Mott. Questions, comments? Ms. Stewart, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Kelly.
Abstain.
Mr. Coth.
Aye.
Mr. Matt.
Aye.
Ms. Palastrellini.
aye.
Mr. Robinson.
Aye.
Ms. Fodor.
Thank you, everyone. Next, we have staff reports, we have the building report and the streets report. Mr. Ray's last building report, so let's go to questions.
Mr. Ray, what did I ask you this afternoon? How many building permits to do this year? November?
You mean new residential
No
permits?
residential permits.
So there's actually a typo on my agenda supplement, but the charts are correct. So it's 90 plus 112. So anybody that wants to do that quick math, 202 new residential permits fiscal year to date. Year to date, or calendar year 2022, there was 95. Calendar year to date, there's over 170. So it's significant. 270, over 270. It's almost triple.
These are all up in the.
This is Tam's Farm has about 130 of them. And then it's the Prairie Ridge Townhomes and your single family there.
James Farm is 182 homes and there are 132 permits issued.
It's just interesting to me that Thames Farm, the one with the bigger lots.
That they're selling for the price of smaller lots.
And
Keep that in mind, please.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No,
But I understand your point.
that's up to the developer to sell it for the price of a smaller lot, but they're still selling them. And they're selling those faster than the smaller lots at the same.
That everybody supposedly wants.
Yeah, funny how that works.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that we're growing at the rate we are. And since it is your last meeting, can you please provide a detailed explanation for the 58 in November?
Absolutely. Lennar did 30.
Oh, my God.
Just kidding.
You know, that straight face, bro.
I don't know those numbers either. I was just gonna
I'll
make
get
it
back to you next week.
up. We'll wait.
Yeah, he'll present next meeting.
I'll get back to you.
I just have one question about the code enforcement. The number of active cases, we have 9. And I think that's been kind of persistent, like that 9. So I'm just curious as to what the topics are that are holding on with those.
So that's one less now since I did this report, actually. We closed out one of them, but the AT&T parking lot or building and parking lot across there is a large one. Basically, we get no response from them. So we sent an official letter now, and if they just don't respond to it, it'll go to court.
What's the issue there, though?
Oh, just
Upkeep or?
yeah, the upkeep, you know,
Okay.
the parking lot and the door frame has got holes in it and it's rusted out.
Okay,
So a resident reported that one.
okay,
There's a couple of pool issues that are no longer issues over the winter, but we would expect them to return, you know, when the season changes again. So they're held off right now, but there's a couple of pool issues where people are not maintaining their pool or they have like a leak in the pool and so it continues to, you know, flood kind of slowly.
okay.
There's Washington Avenue, was a vacant lot there that building was built on, and it's currently actually an industrial zoning. So there's a whole backstory there from about 2018, 2019, where the village rezoned a bunch of the parcels along Washington from industrial to residential. Seems for whatever reason, this parcel was left out of those ordinances, so it's still industrial. And a person built a building for a small business, it seems, on that lot, which is also a zoning violation for industrial, so.
And there's no permit.
Yeah, and with no permit, so there's a whole situation there that we're trying to work out.
Mo will be handling that one on Monday. He's well aware of it. They're mostly people who are not responding to
Okay.
to first warning, and then we have to go through the whole process of notifications and a letter goes up to the village clerk, and registered letter. It takes some time to enforce, but once we get to that point, we're proceeding.
And I know most of them have been moving and put, you know, and stuff, but it just,
Well, and that
I was
might-
curious and trying to give you.
I know there's like a really large project of a dilapidated house that they made some progress over the summer, and so we didn't left it on there to keep track of it, but we didn't, send them to court or anything because they made good progress, and now in the spring they'll continue to make progress.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Ray? Or now, Mr. Starrett for the streets report. He didn't realize he was gonna be on the agenda, but here he is.
I realize.
Mr. Stratton, have you officially moved into the rental property?
I have.
You are? Is
Um,
it working well for you?
Yeah, we moved, all the trucks
to that facility earlier this week, and we're in the process of moving the offices over. So I think by next week, we should have the time clock over there and we can start meeting there. We're still gonna have the other facility with trucks in it, so we'll be bouncing back and forth, but at least for this winter, we can have the plow trucks under our roof.
And
Which is
salt will
important.
still stay in the salt dome.
The salt dome will stay over here just because the lease was later in the year, and it's a process to move that whole thing, so we just figured, you know what, we'll just leave it this time, and my guys, we have a plan, so it's gonna work out good.
Any other questions for Mr. Starrett or about the streets report?
They would be having a pool party over there.
Yes.
With the new program that you have, with the fixing of the sidewalks, just curious as to why we just, and I guess it's just starting, but it was only on just one small area, so is that gonna expand further and?
Yes, so we met with Safe Step, later in the summer. And the reason I met with them is because we received a few more calls than usual on trip hazards, so we thought, well, let's get with the company and see, you know, what they have to offer. Met with Philip, he came in, went over the whole process that they have. And what they do is we identify an area that we want to see them do a survey. We give them a criteria, say 3/8 of an inch to 1.5 inches, and that's what our standard is for saw cutting trip hazards. So they came in and they did a survey, and you'll see there's a total of 174 repairs. 147 of them were able to be saw cut, which they've completed, and those are ADA compliant sidewalk cuts. And then the rest, the remaining is R&R, which is remove and replace. And that's something we'll have to look into come springtime, is replacing the ones they can't saw cut.
So whereas before, the homeowner had to pay to get the sidewalk fixed before, so we're saving the homeowners money by having this process and shaving it?
We have a mill, concrete mill. It's not anything like they have, and it takes it's a lot of labor intensive, and it's slow going. We can't get accomplished what we wanted to get accomplished now, so we would saw cut them, but this process and they give us a porthole in before and after pictures. They pin each location, and this is available for me to go in and make changes as need be. But I had a lot of positive reactions from just the residents in that area come out and talk to the guy that was working Tom and myself as I stopped by to check on them, so.
Now, if a resident still wants to have a sidewalk replaced in an area where we haven't done a survey, we still have the matching program. It's still valid. But the reason we're only surveying a certain area at a time is because we don't want a list of all the trip hazards, because then we're liable. So we don't maintain a list. They tell us which sidewalks they're gonna repair next. And they, even in their promotional materials, it says this reduces your liability. So that's a big part of it.
Okay. Thank you.
Do they pool up the code, or do you have any violations on that pool over there?
I don't know if there's any violations.
You go back to Mr. Ryan.
There will be.
The letterhead's all gonna say peeking.
Next, I thank you again, Mr. Starrett, for being here tonight. Next, we have accounts payable personnel, the amount of $116.63. Are there any questions? Hearing none, I'll approve the accounts payable personnel in the amount of $116.63.
So moved.
Questions, comments, concerns? Ms. Clerk, can you call roll, please?
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mr. Coe.
Aye.
Mr. Matt.
Aye.
Ms. Palastrellini. Mr. Robinson.
Aye.
And Ms. Fodor.
Hi.
All right, next we have the regular accounts payable in the amount of $168,751.14. Any questions? The big one.
Page 6. Page 6, just the block of tech hours and, is that for the police?
No.
Oh,
Or,
go ahead.
So we record, prepay for IT support.
okay,
And then, at the end of each month, we get a report on who has required assistance, as well as the hours that we use for our backups and those types of things, our net monitoring. And so it's all currently recorded in the general fund under the admin area, but it will be allocated to the departments based on usage.
okay.
We get a better deal if you buy them in bulk.
Yeah.
Better rate per hour.
I think we got 95 hours for $9,000.
They haven't raised the price on this.
They have,
Recently?
2023. they have pricing.
I got by with a 2017 rate for a long time.
I know, I just kept paying it. And this time they said, oh, well, you're not gonna get 100 this time. I'm like, oh.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve the regular accounts payable in the amount of $168,751.14.
So moved.
Questions, comments, concerns? Mr. Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Poe,
Aye.
Mr. Matt,
Aye.
Mr. Powers, Jane,
Aye.
Mr. Robinson,
Aye.
Mrs. Fodor,
Aye.
and Mr. Kelly.
Village Board Committee report.
What?
Mr. Kelly, Business Development Commission.
Business Development Commission will be meeting on December 13th, next Wednesday, here. Chairperson Martin will be sending out the agenda beforehand. And Monday,
It's already happened.
oh, it is already up.
Okay. And it's posted.
Okay. So same time, 6:30 here at workshop.
All right. Public Works,
No report.
budget.
I'll be meeting with Ms. Lyons and Mr. Hedges at the end of December to go over the schedule for the budget committee to meet and the budgeting process. And then we'll come back to the board after with what that schedule looks like so the board can have it up front. Some will be committee of the whole and some will probably be just the budget committee. But I will be sharing that.
Awesome. New business. Announcements, we've got parade this weekend. Chocolate, caroling, all kinds of fun to be had. If you are participating in said parade, Washington Avenue.
Can I ask where we landed? Like, is each trustee doing their own? Are we having one village?
Now's the time to make the final decision because Dave will go with whatever we say.
Dave needs to know.
So I was, if everybody joins in, what I've got now is 30. If trustees can't, then the numbers go down. So, we've already got some that have committed otherwise. But it's, I guess, show of hands, who can participate and drive in the parade and who cannot. If there's not a float, or who cannot, period. So it doesn't matter. So is
Who
any,
will be there?
yeah,
I'll be
Cover that.
there.
Who will be there?
okay.
I will use a
So,
village vehicle.
so I,
Don't let me drive it.
so,
The sweeper again.
so I think Mr. Mott agreed that he's gonna look good in an elf costume. I don't know if that's true or not.
Can't try that.
Oh, man, that should be good. That should be real good.
The right height for it.
Wrong accent, though.
So anyway, so I guess it's just the three of us anyway, so we'll find a place for you to go. I'm not gonna tie up a driver and a truck and all that. I mean,
Okay, so
Put me in the.
just so I'm clear, because I'm still a little confused, we're all gonna do our own vehicles.
I'm thinking that's just three of us that are gonna do it.
Well, Ms. Motor's gonna do.
Oh, I'm sorry, this year.
I'm coming. I cannot decorate.
She wants
It's
to
not
drive too.
possible.
Oh, so she wants the truck too.
Maybe
No,
trustee Fodor and I could drive plows next to each other.
No.
Great
Mr.
shot.
Mr. Hedges has a story about
Yeah, I
that.
tried that once.
I mean, I have no problem driving the truck that we decorated last time.
Okay.
We decorated that one.
All right.
And we put a Christmas tree in the back of it and we just did lights around it.
We planned on having the same truck with the
That
float.
like white one.
Yep.
Yeah.
You allowed to drive a village vehicle?
That I can.
What's that?
Or like, are we allowed to drive a village vehicle?
You've been doing it for a few years, so let's
Yeah.
question it now.
I might be able to talk my. Actually, getting going if I can drive the streets with it. I'm just saying.
No, you can't. You
A
can't
bike
drive the
pickup
street.
versus a street sweeper.
That's parked for the winter.
Throw in the cookie.
Yeah, I can.
How about with a trailer on it? They only go like 5
I'm just kidding.
So I guess we're gonna need a vehicle. We'll figure out the logistics of it.
It'll be available, tell them where to pick it up and when.
It'll be available tomorrow, but you can pick it up Saturday at the street garage over here.
And,
So we'll just do the truck itself, right, not the trailer?
Whatever you guys.
there's enough room on the inside of the back that people could stand in the box
Yeah.
if they want.
Because there's not a lot of us, we can all be in the back of the truck. And then that gets silenced. so you can sort it. It's easier to.
Honestly, it's just like, honestly, getting into the back of that truck and standing in the bed is probably safer than standing inside the trailer with the thing that comes up waist high. So.
You know that you,
I got kicked out of it.
besides, you know we've done it in concrete.
No, I
didn't know that until just now.
they're driving and they're, I knew that there was a, like the float part of it. I didn't know that, yeah.
Yeah,
I wasn't worried about the recording, I was worried about her.
Yeah.
And the insurance policy that gets renewed in 2 weeks.
He puts it on cruise control. It's like, so it drives.
Oh, great.
We'll let the trustees drive as long as we get all the insurance
Put it neutral
policies on
at the
the
end.
consent agenda.
He's gonna let the trustees drive as long as the insurance policy renewals are on consent agenda. Fair enough. Fantastic. Okay. Perfect. So we'll need a vehicle. Should be a good time. So we did start to get Santa letters. So I think, in the past, Linda's just emailed all of us when we've had letters and somebody just responds back to her that they're coming to get them. So I think, we could still email Linda, but we're not gonna get a response. Please email Ms. Stuhler. But speaking of Linda, she sent us all a thank you card that I will pass around after the meeting, thanking us for recognizing her and encouraging us to keep in touch with her. I did speak with her this week. She's doing very well and, enjoying retirement best she can. And enjoying to get the pictures from her daughter of her new grandson. So that's exciting. Last piece of business is I went down to Warrenville today to, met with the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus and ComEd. Josh and Jay have done, and other staff, I'm sure, have done a lot of work as far as this EV readiness is concerned and helped us pass the zoning book changes and all of the fun stuff that nobody really wants to talk about. But,
Ready in case it happens.
but we got an award today, along with 14 other communities. I'm sorry I left the piece of paper with all the other communities, but it was cities like Oak Park, Geneva,
That's okay, we're the only.
University. Well, what's really interesting,
It's for Hampshire.
what's interesting is, so we got the email and said, hey, we're gonna give you guys an award. You're one of all these cities. You guys should come. And Jay and I are like, yeah, you wanna go, you wanna go, you wanna go. And we pretty much settled on we're not going. And then we found out we were the only community that wasn't sending anybody, so I went. And everybody, all these other.
22 emails saying, is somebody coming?
Yeah, and so, everybody brought like an entourage of people in Hampshire, it was just me. So, we're happy to have it. I just thought I'd share it.
And you
with-
didn't even vote for it.
I wanted to share it.
On the record.
I wanted to, I told everybody that I did no work for this, but this is the first time I've actually received an award for work I didn't do. But,
Our
anyway,
diplomas don't count.
right, yeah, right. So anyway, but that's all I got. Anybody else have anything else for us? Okay, we doing good?
Wished everybody a happy first night of Mondo.
Fantastic. We do have to go into executive, so I'll take a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Oh, wait, we have a first. I didn't have a second.
Second right here.
Okay, I'm sorry. I figured it was implied.
We had to.
Adjourn, you have to approve it to executive
Right,
session first, not adjourn.
Well, sorry, for break so that we can go into executive. 5 minutes.
So I'm.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry, too late.
I'm still holding your, I'm still holding your one, so.
Okay, so that was the recess in case the video is watching. 5 minutes.
For the excuse, for the reason of.